5% of the departments in the United States do it wrong because it doesn't make sense. It does when you look at it from an ISO perspective. They're looking for what that main will do. And so then it kind of starts making sense, but that's just not how we think.
What's that? I said we have to behave being filmed.
Nah, he said he's got a beep button. That's the first thing I asked. I said, do I got to watch my cuss words and stuff? And he said, no, I got a beep button. I said, so the whole point is to cuss enough that you have to beat pretty much this whole thing. You know, see if I can make that happen.
Most offensive
Yeah.
class you've ever done.
All right. Well, I'll introduce myself real quick then. He's making some coffee in the back, so y'all know that's going. My name's Johnny Phelps. I'm an emergency reporting trainer. Been training with them for right at 1.5 years now. I always forget how long, because it seems like it was yesterday, but I started training for them doing stuff like this, coming and doing 3-day on-sites, teaching people just how to get started. We do regional training sites too, where several trainers will come together. We're all over the United States. They found us by when they came to our department and started teaching this. They picked us out. I don't know why, just maybe because of the area we're in, or I did training and they kind of liked the way I set my training up, so they asked me if I would start helping them. I started doing some online stuff with them. Next thing you know, I'm getting to travel a little bit and meet people like you and this kind of stuff. Really, really enjoy it, and mainly because it's fire departments I'm going to. I'm not a computer guy, I'm not a salesman. I do a lot of teaching at my department because I'm the training officer, so I wouldn't say I'm really good at it, but I have to do it a lot. And it's fun to come see all these other departments because there are so many similarities, so many of the same gripes, so many of the same brags, so many of the same type of people that it's fun to come visit and network with everybody. I work full-time at Anniston Fire Department. It's in Anniston, Alabama. It's kind of stuck right in the middle of Birmingham and Atlanta on the interstate right there. It's a little bit bigger department than this one, not much more. So really comparative, we're real close. So I guess you could say we're small to mid-size, somewhere around there. We have 5 stations, so just real similar. And it's really funny to hear some of the stuff coming out of y'all's mouth because I picture certain people at my department that say the exact same things, talk the same way. Got really progressive, excited people, and then got some people that think, I hate you because you're bringing this computer and making me use it, you know, type of thing. So I will tell you that with this program, we got it in November of 13 and went live with it January of 14. So we got it, and then a couple months later went live, which sounds pretty similar to what y'all are doing. A lot of the same anti-anticipation, I guess. A lot of people that were kind of dreading it a little bit. And after about 2 years of it up and running, everybody's gotten used to it. They've gotten used to the look of it. Nobody has a problem using it anymore, that kind of thing. I've got some of those people that told me that I was going to make them leave our department when I put this stuff on them, that now come and say these iPads and this program are the best thing that ever happened to this place. Not because I did it, but just because the system works for them and makes some of the stuff they do every day a lot easier now that they've gotten used to it. Like hydrant testing. It's so much easier than the way we used to do it. So much better organized. People's stuff isn't getting trashed after they've spent all that time filling out paperwork, and they know it because they can see it. So we've been very, very happy with it. There are things within this system that, as a fireman, I'd like to see change and work a little better. The system was designed by a fireman and a GIS guy. So you got a fireman and a computer guy in Washington State that come up with this idea to come up with a reporting system designed for ambulances, for EMS type of thing. Well, it turned into a fire reporting type of thing for Washington State, and that's where it grew from. So you got this system that was based on a fireman's opinion 13 years ago to start. Well, he's obviously no longer a fireman. He's still at this company running it. He's one of the CEOs there, and then you got the GS guy doing the same thing. Well, now they've got 50 employees there, different development teams, production, coders, all these different people that do computer stuff. So they built things within the program, which I'm going to get into deep, for us to be able to tell them how we want this program to run. What do we want to see change as firemen? What do we want to see happen with it? Not from a computer guy's perspective. Because a computer guy's perspective is more about that emergency reporting, the color, where it's sitting. We need to take a week and work on that to make it look better. When for us, I don't care. I don't care. I want that hydrant work order to be able to be linked to something else to make it easier for me. So there's a part in this program that I want to show you where you can let them know what we want as firemen, and they follow that, and they really use that to develop this program further. So is everybody able to get logged in? Or did we give? Okay, login is supposed to be your ESO username. And then the password is going to be a capital P, password, number 1, exclamation point. Should be for
Not
everybody.
ESO, right? ER.
You're in emergency reporting, but it's going to be the same username that you use for ESO, I believe. And if not, I can check that real quick and we can get all that fixed. I just want to make sure everybody can get in. But capital P, lowercase a, SS word, number 1, exclamation point. See, I've already caused it to beep twice.
Well, we probably will.
When I threw word on the end of ass, that's when we fixed it, right? Oh crap, there goes another beep. And make sure everybody gets in, okay? In. Yours is invalid.
Oh, boy.
I can look up, you think it's your username or is it the password?
No, it'll be in my username.
Okay, let me look it
I
up.
think it's just one F in it.
Yes.
I can check that real quick.
I think it's just one F. I don't know.
That's your name up? How long you been here?
It's, well, no, he gave me the card.
Try not to put a letter, number at the end. Mine doesn't have a number.
I had a 01 on the end of mine.
I had mine. I had one.
What's your name, ma'am?
Denise,
Denise?
D-E-N-Y-S.
Your last name is Denise?
Neff, N-E-F-F.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I did spell password.
Yeah,
wrong.
D-N-E-F-F 1.
Oh,
and your pass-
01, okay. I got put 01.
Okay. That's all it is, I bet.
All right.
All our personal information.
And y'all are logged in, okay?
1.
Still having some issues?
Password.
Okay, and the password is capital P, lowercase
1.
ASS word, number 1 with an exclamation point after that, right?
Okay.
How do we change that?
I'll show you here in just a second. When we start in there, it's got a spot you can change it, make it what you want. And then if you forget it, your admin here locally can go in and change it again for you and reset it and do anything you need to with that. So. Everybody in now? Anybody not in?
He's in.
Okay.
He's playing already. He's had the training. He's probably making something. Yeah.
Okay.
Picture again.
Like I said, I worked for Anniston Fire Department. I've been with them for 16 years, been training officer for 4 years, been a paramedic for 15 years, started at the very bottom, and I wouldn't say I'm nowhere near the top, but I got somewhere in a little management spot. So I've been there, done that, been through recruit schools. I teach a lot of recruit schools, so I feel like I can identify with you in a lot of ways. I don't speak very good computerese, so sometimes when I start stuttering about what something might be, like this hyperlink, I use the word hyperlink over and over, and I start realizing that if anybody knows anything about computers, I'm probably completely wrong. But that's how I see it. It's a hyperlink. It's what I think it is. So stuff like that, just try to ignore and realize I'm just a dumb fireman, just trying to show you how to get going. The whole point of the training today is nothing more than I'm going to show you this home screen and teach you how to use it, teach you how to find help and support and that kind of stuff, and really kind of probably drive you a little bit nuts about talking about that so much. We're going to look at how to put a report in, how to navigate that report thing, because that is the point of this whole program, is the reports. The rest of it is all good and all, but it's about reports. It's about getting your reports in, making them easy, and them being completely NIFRS compliant in the most easy way possible. And this system is really, really good at that. And then we'll touch some other things within the system, like hydrants and a couple other things, but the main goal is to get your reports going. That way, when it's time, y'all won't have any issues, won't have any struggles or troubles. I'm real informal, so if you need to use the restroom or get a cup of coffee, please don't feel like you're being rude. Go ahead and get up and get it. I'll try to take a break at least once every 45 minutes or so we can get up and walk around, because I know this stuff can be a little on the dry side. So, all right, once you get logged in, the first thing you're going to see is your home screen. I'm up there. Everybody's home screen is going to be unique to them once you start messing with this some. It's going to show a little bit different information. You're going to see some different stuff on the left because it's your account you're signed into. Anything you mess with on this home screen is not going to affect the whole system. It's just going to affect your home screen. So you don't have to worry about playing or making changes or anything like that. You can do all of that on here, and you're not going to hurt your department system at all. Up in the top left-hand corner, you've got a home button. Anytime you touch that home button, it's going to bring you back to this page. and I welcome you to go in here and play while we're doing this. When we're doing reports, you can be putting one in. You're not going to tear anything up. You're not live. The only thing they ask you don't mess with yet until after March 1st is the hydrant module, because that is set up and it's pretty much ready to go live. And so we don't want to tear nothing up or change too many things. So you hit that home button. It's always going to bring you back to this screen, to your home screen. We're going to look across the top taskbar first over to the support button. Getting started, this is probably the most important button on here. If you end up having questions or something looks weird or you're not used to the way this looks yet. Support, when you click on it, it's going to open up into a separate page. This separate page is removable, notice that. So if you're on a dual screen monitor or you're on a big enough computer that you can slide it over here and slide this, you can work through in your system while you got that support page up and look at the instructions. On that support page, the first thing you're going to see is a big search keyword search bar. So this is not the way I normally look up, but it is there. You can type any word that you can think of. Say you're dealing with something with personnel, access settings or something like that. You can type personnel in, hit enter. Oh, I misspelled it. Doesn't work if you misspell it. Did it again. Got fat fingers.
Yep, you're a fire guy.
Yep. And look, I'm going to rip this mic off too at some point. You may have to come up and slap me. All right, for personnel, notice I put it in and it tells me there's 60 results. So there's 60 different things within this support page that has something to do with personnel. For me, that's not the way I want to search. I don't want to have to look through 60 more things after I've typed a keyword in. So it is there if you want to use it, but that's how it operates. It's going to pull a keyword out. For me, I prefer to use this list on the right. It says knowledge base over it, and what they've named any kind of article or any kind of virtual webinar training or any kind of video as a knowledge base article. Those are different things to help you gain knowledge about this system. So knowledge base is nothing but instructions. It's your instruction manual. So over here on the right, you're going to see a big list of things. Notice it says administration, analytics, CAD, calendar. A lot of these are names of these modules that you're going to be working in. Hydrants, that's a module you're going to be working in today. And you're probably going out the gate, going to start testing hydrants and putting stuff in here. So this knowledge base article may be a really good thing to get involved in and start seeing. Once you get going, something gets a little confusing, you can't remember something we talked about today, get in this knowledge base and see if you can find it. Before you ever start, you know, kind of look this stuff up, especially if you're in charge of the hydrants. You may want to kind of read through this and have it down before you ever get out there. So under hydrants, we've got a list of things. Notice that we got create, view, and completing work orders. It's going to go through step-by-step instructions. Step 1, navigate to the hydrants module with a red box to kind of indicate where you need to go. Step 2, locate your desired hydrant and navigate to work orders. Step 3, add work order, you know, so it'll step you through every little piece of the process. That's work orders with the hydrants. You've got details tab, hydrant module settings, part 1, settings, adding hydrants, adding a hydrant manually. You know, so step by step you can find just about anything with hydrants that you need to know. Below that, you're going to see we've got frequently asked questions, events, PCRs. Frequently asked questions is a good one to get in there and look through and read before you or right as you get started with the system. Most of these questions are built because they're frequently asked when people first start using the system. Stuff that somebody that's used it over and over and over may not even think about answering. Stuff I may not sit here and be able to think to tell you because I'm so used to the system, I just don't think about it. But it's a good way to find that information. Getting started, that's another good one because it's getting started and y'all are just getting started. You notice these are videos. It's actually got videos that you can dig through on exactly what I'm teaching you right now. It'll be a whole video of how to get started, what the home page is all about, that kind of stuff. So anything I miss or anything that was confusing, you can go back and check these out. And then you'll see below that, you got all the other modules that are within the system listed. You got webinars on demand. That's Virtual Thursdays, which is a type of training we do twice a month called Virtual Thursdays on Thursdays. I'll show you how you can get registered to those. Those will show up on your home screen. And if it's a title or something that is interesting to you, something to do with your part of this job or just something interesting, you can register for that, and we'll send you an email link, and when you hit that link, it'll shoot you straight into our meeting on that Thursday. You'll be able to see our screen move around. You can type and ask questions and chat. We can open your mic up if you want to speak. And if you register and for some reason you're on duty and you all of a sudden get a call or something, it doesn't matter. If you register and are able to be there for 2 or 3 minutes, that's okay. But if you're interested, you got to be registered to get invited. It's no cost. It's all free. Sometimes they're pretty decent little topics like ISO ratings. Anybody that's in management that cares about ISO wants this system to work in its best way to be able to prove to ISO when they show up without having to dig a bunch of paper out. So that's a good one to watch for them. And then you got what's new at the bottom, which I think what's new is self-explanatory. It's new features in the program, new things that are coming, that kind of thing. Notice on the left we got Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube if you want to connect to those and keep up with where emergency reporting is going. Up above that, it's got our support phone number. They are in Bellingham, Washington, so normally the hours are 8 to 4:30, but normally they're going to be there from 6 to about 7:30 at night, so they're 3 hours behind you. So normally nobody will get in the door till around 9 o'clock of your morning. So a lot of times if you call that number, you're going to end up with a message. If it's an emergency, call this next number. If something bad, real bad happens with this system, they've never had an emergency phone yet in the last 13 years. One time, they did have one time where the system went down for 10 minutes, and that was last year at one point. And that just involved them doing an update to the system that ended up crashing it for 10 minutes, and that was a huge disaster in their eyes. The most that the system's ever went down, besides that one instant in the last 13 years, it went down for 22 seconds one time. And that's just where everything kind of started freezing up and acting weird, and then it started working again. And that was because of when they push updates in, sometimes it does some odd stuff and slows it down. But up above that, you'll see news and announcements. That's the same thing. It's just going to give you a list of updates, virtual Thursdays that are happening, like right here, 10/21. This is a list of system updates that were pushed in on that Tuesday. Bug fixes, new features added, that kind of stuff. Sometimes when something changes, the look changes or it starts acting a little different, it's because it's an upgrade or an update. There is no putting a CD in the computer. There is no downloading an update off the web, nothing like that. That's all pushed from home and it's done. Most of the time you won't even know it happened unless you read these things. Anywhere you're at within this system, if you can log in, you've got internet, you've got access to your login. So if you're on your cell phone, you can log into this. You can do a report out in the field on your cell phone. You can do a report on an iPad, anything you've got internet access to, you're good to go with this. The security is all done in 2 storage data sites. They got one in Denver, one in Phoenix, and those 2 sites are DoD compliant because we do have the Marine Corps, part of the Air Force and part of the Navy fire, and they're working on getting the rest of those. So everything that we have to do with security is up to military standard. It has to be. They've got all the certificates and all that kind of stuff that military requires to be one of their vendors. So it's a very secure site. You're not going to lose any data. If one of those gets hit by a nuclear bomb, like we talked about yesterday, one of those data sites, probably not going to have to worry about needing this information at that point. We end up with a nuclear bomb go off. All right, and that's the updates features. Contact support, if it's something after hours or something that you've got a file, you're trying to upload something or import something in here, there's several spots you can do that kind of stuff in. You can send a support request in if it won't work right. You click that button, contact support, put your email address in, a subject, a description. Don't worry about the PIMFers account thing. The state of Pennsylvania is mandated every fire department there uses ERS because of their state fire marshal's office, the way they wanted it to go. Put your name in, your department name. If you know your FDID, you can put it there. Your phone number. Pick the module you're having a problem in. And then if you have an attachment that you want to upload to show them, let them see a more clear picture. I told them the other day, I spent 2 months, since I'm the training officer, I went to upload everybody's certificates into their personnel file. That way they'd have a list of all the stuff they did. And could not get it to work for nothing. So they were piling up. And guys are going to classes and sending me the stuff and I can't get it in, can't figure it out. tried 3 different computers, 4 different browsers, and nothing worked. So I finally said, okay, I'll send a support ticket in. Filled all this out, attached that certificate to this, submitted it, and 20 minutes later had my answer that I was putting the date in wrong. Instead of using the little calendar that popped up, I was just typing in like January 1st of 16. And all I had to do was type in January 1st of 2016 or use the calendar, which would do that automatically, and it worked. So 2 months of frustration. And just because it was a little embarrassing, I wouldn't shoot this in when I should have just done it and had my answer then and not piled all that work up. Any questions about contacting support? All right, just above that, you're going to see suggest a feature. This is that feature that I was telling you. As you get going into this, you're going to see stuff that would make your job easier, something good for the department. This is what they use to find out what you want. Suggest a feature, and it's on the support page. This is where people go in and put ideas they have for the system, something that would work for them better. You notice as an assistant chief, I would like to see an option to complete the daily and weekly apparatus checks on the system. All the ideas are posted like that. Like as a training officer, I would like to see this happen so that it would make it easier for this. You know, as a report writer, I would like to see this, or as a sergeant, I would like to see this, or an engineer, you know, that's how you would phrase those. And notice it's defaulted to top ideas. So this is the top idea within the system right now. And what I've tried to kind of push to everybody, the top idea in the system has 1,183 votes on it. So what votes are? Everybody in the system has 100 votes altogether. So you have 100 votes, you have 100 votes, I have 100 votes. I can go into any one of these ideas that I see that I like a lot and put 3 votes on it. It gives you that option. So if you like this idea, me and you could both go in and put 3 votes and add 6 to it right now, or all of us could if you wanted to. So when you think about it, if it's something you come up with that would be really good for Leesburg Fire Department, you got 60 some odd people here, you got 180 votes to put on one. So you come up with that idea, tell everybody, hey, get on there and vote for it. That's 180 votes. Somebody contacts me and says, hey, look at this idea, would it work for Anniston? And I'm like, yeah, I got 80 something guys. So I turn around and put 240 more votes on it. The top idea out of 75,000 users has 1,100 votes on it. So not a lot of people are taking advantage of this. So if we can put 200, 300, 400, 500 votes on something, it is going to get noticed and they are going to respond to it. And so that means Leesburg could change the way this system works and make it work better for you. All it takes is knowing about this and getting in it and looking at it and taking the time to actually vote on this stuff. Because the majority of users are not. They're waiting for everybody else to do that and griping about something they don't like about it instead of trying to fix it. So that's the top idea, and it's defaulted to that. So that's what you're going to see at first. You can also look at hot ideas, stuff that come across as something hot, something easy, something neat within the system. You can use this box, which is another keyword search. I'm going to type training since it's what I do. Hit enter, and it's going to highlight every idea that's got the word training in it. Let me look through those and see if that idea I've got is already in the system. Or I can look over on the right side that's set up just like the knowledge base is, where it's got everything broken down into modules and ideas. And so I can look into the training module and see where there's 63 ideas in there and glance through that. If I find an idea I like, all I got to do is hit vote, pick how many votes I want on it. If I pick 3, it's going to take 3 out of my overall count and move on. If I can't find that idea, so I want to post it, all I got to do is start typing as a training and then post new idea. I finish this up and get the idea cleaned up like I want it to read, put my email address in there, put how many votes I want to in there and post it. And that's when I contact everybody in my department, say, hey, please get on there and put your votes in. And then I'd probably contact Chief Mayor and say, hey, you think you could get your guys to put these votes in on it if it's an idea that'll work for y'all too? You know, we'll get it voted up real quick and maybe we'll see that change within the next year or 6 months. So the suggestive feature is really cool. They really do pay attention to this big time. And it is very important that we use it to make sure that we're steering this the way the fire service needs it to go and not the way a computer company needs it to go. They don't want to do that. They want to do what their customer wants, but they got to hear something back from us. Normally what they're used to getting is emails griping, and that doesn't really help. This actually helps. All right, any questions about the support page? I know I hung on there for a little bit, but I think this is a very important thing for a new user to know all about. All right, let's get rid of the support page. Just to the right of the support page is a help button. This is another good button to mess with and look at. It's actually attached to whatever page you happen to be looking at. So if I'm looking at the home screen right now and I click help, it's also going to pull up on a separate page that I can set over to the side and work in my system while I'm looking at it. But it's set up to break down that page completely into different sections, explain those sections to me. It's not going to be really instructions on anything. It's more or less telling you what each button is and what it's kind of supposed to do, but won't give you step-by-step instructions on how to change your password. It just tells you that that's what that button is. Did it have any icons that are on the page and describe those and explain those to you? And like I said, if you're on a different portion of the program and you hit help, it's not going to pull up that help screen again that you have to hunt for what you're looking for. It's going to pull up the page you're on. So we're looking at the incident grid view. It's going to pull up that and tell you, this is the incident grid view. These are the different things about this page that you need to know. Any questions about the help button? Just to the right of that, your log out button. I think your system is set up, an admin can change this, but I think you automatically get logged out after 6 hours if it's just sitting here. If I walk away from the computer and leave it, 6 hours before it'll log me out. To the right of that is a little message box with a pencil. This is nothing more than another way for them to try to figure out what people want. They'll throw up 2 ideas. You pick the one you like the best, and then you can pick it and subscribe it to where you'll get emails letting you know, hey, this idea is going into production or is being planned or being reviewed, that kind of thing. Just to the right of that's a little envelope. That's tied to the message center. So when you get a message in this message center, that little envelope's going to light up a number and tell you, oh, hey, you've got 2 messages. So that just another way for you to see it when you log in and not miss it. All right. Just below the taskbar, normally above this welcome trainer, ER trainer, or your name, you're going to see a box like this on number 3. This is your system alert box. What this system alert box is going to, a little message will pop up there to let you know updates are being pushed in the system or new features, marketing items, like this orange arrow. You'll see those a lot. That's where you'll see those virtual Thursday trainings pop up, is up there above your name. If you're interested in what you see, it's always going to be hyperlinked. Just click on it, and it'll get a little deeper into what that item is. If it's a virtual Thursday training, free training session, you click on it, it'll lead you to a registration link. Click on that and it's going to ask you for your name and email. Once you put those in and register, you'll get the email. It's all free. Note the date and time on it, and whenever it's time, click on the hyperlink. It'll take you straight into our class and run it for an hour. And we'll also record those and stick them in the webinars too. So just below that, you're going to see welcome and your name, the date, and your last login, which should be today, about when you first logged in. To the right of that, you're going to have station and shift, and it should have the station you're assigned to. Your administrator actually assigns those, and the shift you're assigned to. Same thing, administrator assigns those, so if it's wrong, just get with him and he can correct that. Below that, the change, station, and shift, it's orange, so this is where I use hyperlink all the time, and it's a hyperlink. If you touch that, it's going to allow you to change what station you're at and what shift you're on. It's mainly meant for if you are working over or floating that day and you're not at your originally assigned station, you can correct that. That way, whenever you put stuff in the daily log, which we'll hit in a minute, on the correct daily log, the correct station and correct shifts daily log. If I'm assigned to station 1, where I'm at right now, if I work for somebody and fill in for them so they can be off and happen to be at station 3, I have to go up and change that to station 3. Otherwise, every time I try to post something on this daily log, it's going to post it to station 1's, even though I'm not there that day.
How long does it hold it there? Or do
It'll
you
hold it.
switch it back when you go back to your normal?
It'll hold it till you change it. So like right now, I changed it from C shift to A shift, and notice it's still A shift when I log back in, so it won't swap back unless I change it back. To the right of that, you see a little orange hyperlink that says change password. This is where you go to set your password or change it anytime. You can do this 50 times a day if you want. just notice that it is going to prompt you when you go to change it not to change it to one that you've used, I think, 20 times previous in the previous 20 passwords. It's not going to let you do that. So if you use one, Chief Mayor, I believe, has it set to expire in a year. So in a year, it's going to force you to change it anyway. But this is a way you could do that, but you'll never be able to change it back. If it's going to reset once a year, so for 20 years, you can never use that password again. So remember that when you go to start changing stuff frequently, that it won't let you reuse. To do that, you simply click on Change Password. It's your system is set at a minimum of 6 characters, which is the minimum you can have. It can go as high as 20 if you want to set, because a DoD, 20 characters for a password would, somebody's going to die. Somebody's going to cut somebody before it's over. But that's a DoD standard. They have to have that ability for higher level clearance to make them that long. You have to have at least one number, one lower, one uppercase, and a special character in there. They ask that you don't use the word password or date of birth or email address, and that just keeps it more HIPAA compliant. Put your old password in, put your new and confirm it, and you're good to go. All right, system notifications. This is the portion where you can go in and actually customize what your screen looks like. I'll go to mine on this one just to show you one that's kind of moving. All right, to change those, you hit Change My Notifications, and it's going to pop up a menu box. There's all kinds of things you can check. If you put a check beside it, you can choose Show Details or Summary for calendar items. Messages, same thing. I would suggest everybody, I would suggest for y'all, because we worked on calendar yesterday and I'm going to show you that, and it looks like it's something that might be useful for y'all. I'd suggest calendar items, turn those on, messages, turn those on, and incidents, turn those on. The rest of it, if you deal with hydrants a lot, you might want to turn them on, see what you think about it. Maintenance, same thing, you might want to turn those on if you're going to end up dealing with maintenance. Same thing with inspections, and you can filter these inspections down to exactly what you're looking for. If you're only in charge of inspections at a certain station or something, you can use that to filter it to just see yours. Permits, same way. I don't know that I would turn them on unless that's something you would end up having to deal with and worry about. You've got training, which will let you filter down to how many days ahead of time you're instructing or enrolled in classes, and events. Once you get that set to the way you want it, you can hit the Save button or the little floppy disk, which there's one at the bottom and there's one at the top of the list, and it's going to automatically refresh and put those on there. So I'm in my home account right now. I don't have any calendar items because we don't utilize that very much. Y'all will. Messages, I don't happen to have a message in here right now, or it would be displayed across my screen right here. Training, that's the thing I do worry about, so I keep it turned on all the time. Notice all this information that's popped up here. That's what I've set it to show me when I get in here. If it's orange, it's a hyperlink. So say I look at this class and wonder why it's not completed or done, or do I just need to review it? All I got to do is hit that orange hyperlink, go straight to the class. This one's sitting here ready for me to be reviewed, so I can review it and be done with it. Oh. Down below the training, you're going to have incidents. This is the one, like I said, everybody should have on in here. This will let you know when you've done a report and it's not complete yet, or somebody reviewed it and needed you to make changes and incompleted it. This is going to tell you you have 1, 2, 5, 10, however many incomplete reports waiting to be done. To go to those, all you got to do is hit Incomplete Incidents. It's going to take you straight to those reports. Waiting to be reviewed. This is going to show up for everybody. It's going to say you have 1 or 10 or however many incidents that are waiting to be reviewed. As we get into incidents, you're going to see anything that's complete. You go do your report, get all the way through, put your password in, and complete it. It's sitting there waiting for somebody to review it. Everybody will see this many incidents are waiting to be reviewed. The person that would use this button is the person that actually goes and does all the QA and stuff. It comes up for everybody, but that would actually be for the person that's going to look at those reports and make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be and finishes them out. So for him, all he's got to do is hit Reviewed. And I've got 1 completed report sitting there waiting to be finished out and reviewed. The report writer's done with it. I just need to go make sure times, grammatical, whatever's important to your department, all that's good, and then I can put my password in and it's done.
Is that what locks it?
Yes, ma'am.
If
Whenever
lock
I
it-
go in and review it and make it a green lock, which we'll hit that in a minute too, but I'll make it that green lock, then that report is ready to go to NIPERS. All it's waiting on is an admin at the end of the month, touch a button, and it's done.
Chief, am I doing the lock or is Battalion doing the lock?
It's just like in Firehouse, you'll do your crews, and if you write something, the DC will do yours.
Okay. So I don't, like, mistakenly, if I lock it and he's like, oh,
You
well,
got
I
it.
reviewed what you reviewed, but you missed this,
He can,
he'll amend it.
he'll send it back to you probably.
Yeah, and he can
But
unlock
it's-
that
if
if
it's locked, how do I make corrections? Isn't there something about once they're locked, they're
Yes,
locked?
so-
I'll show you.
Okay.
And I'll make sure I hit every question you got to when we do that, because it's really cool the way it's set up, and you can do it a couple of different ways, whatever fits you best. But it's easy and convenient.
Okay.
So, but yeah, this is easy to review those kind of calls and work through them and finish them out without a lot of fuss. So down below that, you notice I turned on all my hydrants, so I'm seeing all the outstanding hydrant work orders. And of course, from this screen, I can double click them right here on a computer, and that's the same thing as touching that pencil and paper. On an iPad, you can't double click, so that's why that pencil and paper is there. So iPad, you would hit the pencil and paper. But go into that hydrant's work order, and I can finish it out and complete it straight from my home screen, instead of having to go into the hydrants module and hunt it down and look it up and pull it up and all that kind of stuff. All right, same thing with the out-of-service hydrants. I can double click it and go straight into the out-of-service hydrant. One thing I want to point out here is if you ever see this little map looking thing, and usually it's going to have a map with a little red arrow pointed over it, sitting beside it, that's a Google integration feature. So that means you can look at that list below it on a Google map. The one to the right with the arrow is a Google Earth export feature. So if you've got Google Earth on your computer and you like to do layering and throwing different layers of stuff in there and all that kind of stuff, you hit that button, it'll toss all that into Google Earth to where you can layer it with green street signs or tourist attractions, whatever you want to do. So, but you hit the normal map, it's going to pull up your Google map, and all it's going to show is whatever's on my list below me. So right now all I'm looking at is Anniston's out-of-service hydrants. I can go to satellite view, I can scroll in. Let me find some other hydrants. I keep picking that one hydrant. It's kind of in a nasty area of town. Okay, let's look at some of these. These are old Fort McClellan hydrants. So I scroll in. If I can drop the person, wherever the blue lines are, the little Google van has driven through and mapped that so you can actually drop the person and get a street view. So to view that hydrant, let's see, which direction was it? There's the hydrant right there. Notice my pins over here. Those can be moved and made more accurate. According to the Latin long, that's where it dropped it, was probably 20 feet from that hydrant. But as you're doing hydrants, you can correct that. And I'll show you that as we get into hydrants. But that's your Google Map integration. You got Google Map integration all over this program in a lot of spots, occupancies, in your incidents, and all this stuff. So anytime you see that little map, or you see up at the top where it says switch to map or grid view, that's what it'll show you. All right, below that, I've got my maintenance work request turned on. Same thing, same theme all the way throughout this. I can click on it, go straight to that maintenance request and get it done right from my home screen rather than hunting it down. Below that is inspections, and I'm not going to do that again. Same theme over and over and over. Permits would be the same way if we did permits at my department. To turn any of that stuff off, just go back in and uncheck it. So I don't use calendar items at my department, so we'll move them off. I don't really mess with hydrants and stuff every day. So all that does is clutter my home screen up. Permits, I'm gonna leave training. I'm gonna get rid of events. I'm gonna hit the save button. Now it's gonna change it back to what I wanted to see originally. log back into your account. Maybe. There we go. All right, since I've got the calendar items turned on, that's what that is right there, is a calendar item. And so since it's showing up on there, when you set your calendar items, I think we stuck grass cutting in there as an example, like for today. Maybe someone was off, wants to kind of plan this stuff out, and in case he's off or she's off, you can leave this stuff and your guys know, okay, this is expected to be done, rather than writing it down on a piece of paper. Plus, go ahead.
Only for your station?
No, these calendar items would be for everybody. Everybody that's on that day would see these.
I don't see it on mine, I just.
You got your calendar on?
Your notifications turn on calendars?
Yep.
We'll look at that in a second, because that doesn't make sense, but we'll look and see.
Is there a pink slip over there?
Do y'all see it?
No,
Okay.
actually mine isn't either.
Let me click
No,
on
on your
show
homepage.
details.
Yeah, I know, I just hit
That's
it a
probably what
different
it is.
way, to see. See, it says calendar right there, so I opened it.
Okay.
But
It
not
just said
the
no
same.
miscellaneous, but I click on it, it didn't do anything, but if I put show details, it
Okay.
instead of.
So if you want to see it like this, that's a good point. I guess you need to check show details on there. Now to get into that calendar item, you can do it from your home screen with that little pencil, just like the rest of the functionality of everything else. I click on that pencil, it'll open up the calendar. It's got it highlighted for the day, and we'll get in the calendar here in a little bit, and I'll explain the different spots of it, okay? Any questions on your notifications, though? Okay. Down below that, it's going to be your daily log. Daily log is set up to replace the red book or notes, stuff like that you're having to write down every day about what everybody's doing, whether they're going to PT, grass cutting, truck washing, clean the station, did a station tour, car seat installation happened at our station that day. If you don't put those in as an incident, some people do to create more numbers. If you don't do that, it's a good spot to track it. On the daily log, what's good about the daily log is if there's something you're wanting to keep track of, you can do that on daily log and not do it anywhere else. So if I'm wanting to keep the amount of time we spend on car seat installations, I can have people put it in on daily log, the correct amount of time, and then pull a report at the end of the year and see exactly how many car seats we did. Alarms, whenever you put a call in, they're defaulted to be called alarms. You can change that if you want them to be called incidents or anything, but most people just leave it. That is an incident that has been completed and ran. Those automatically populate, you don't have to put those in. Same thing if you ever get into training, training automatically populates. Inspections, if somebody's assigned to your station, so like maybe the central station where your inspectors are assigned, I don't know how y'all do your pre-surveys or anything. Anytime an inspection is done, it's automatically going to populate here too. And notice it's got a red view incident. So I can look at this alarm response that was ran at 8 to 8:30, I think it's one we put in, and click that view incident, and it's going to take me straight to it. Anything that's not automatically populated, you're going to have to put on there yourself. So it's defaulted to show for current station. So what I'm looking at, since I set myself at the headquarters, I'm looking at the headquarters daily log for the day. If I want to see everybody's, I can show for all stations and see everything that's going in the daily log for my station and any other station that's in here for the day too. It's only going to show for today, for 210. Your account is set, shift starts at 8 and ends at 8 in the morning, right? So this daily log will turn over at exactly 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you were to sign in the morning at 8:02, you're going to see a blank daily log because it's going to be defaulted to that day. So if you want to do pass on, this is something we talked about and come up with and played with too. Your pass on log, this is a way you could do that. You would simply click add to log, just like you would to put physical training, car seat, anything in there. Add to log. Start date is today. If you were doing something right now, like let's do a car seat installation first. So we want to do a car seat installation. They just pulled up, fixing to go out to do it. I hit now. It takes me 30 minutes to do it, so I'm going to say 13, I'll just say 13:30. My activity code is going to be car seat install. Those can all be adjusted and changed, so if you run into something that's not in there, all you got to do is contact Chief Mara or whoever's working on your admin and get him to add an activity code that fits, something you would want to track. You can put any information about the owner, the car, whatever information you would normally store, you can put in notes right there. You can put the personnel that actually did the car seat installation. If it's an entire engine company, you can choose the list, and if the roster has been formed for that day, it's going to say fill from roster right there. And that'll be something that will start happening pretty soon, where your battalion chief will start setting up a daily roster and hit fill from roster. It's going to check everybody that's on that truck. If not, no big deal. All you got to do is find the person that did it or the couple people that did it, put a check mark beside them, and submit. Make sure everything looks good. Let's see, that's what I did wrong. I didn't check that. So if you check the engine and hit from roster, it's going to fill in everybody, because I thought he had set up a roster for today. It's going to check everybody that's already assigned to that vehicle according to the roster and submit. So right now, Engine 61's personnel did this, plus me. I'm going to check me because I'm not assigned to that truck, and add. All right. Let's scroll down. Where did I put that one at? Car seat installation, right here. So that's going to slide in there on the times that I put, since I put 8:27. It's going to have everybody's name and my name. It's going to have any notes that I put in there, and that's a reportable. I can pull a report on that one activity code, car seat installations, at any point when I feel like it. So it's a good way to keep track. Same thing with smoke detector installations, or if you bring kids in to show them the station. Good idea, at least in the notes, to note the number of children that walk through. And at the end of the year, if you pull those reports, you can add those numbers together. Tells exactly how much time y'all spent with fire prevention for kids or seniors or whatever. And you can actually put down the number of civilian contacts you had. Good report, good justification for the time y'all are spending. Now for pass-on log, the only difference with it would be you don't want it to show up on yours for today, you want it to be there for them tomorrow, right? So naturally, you got to add the log, you got to make sure you change the date to tomorrow. It's got to be after 0800, because that's when all this turns over and swaps around. So you'd want to put it at either 8 o'clock or 8:01, and maybe end it whenever, 8:02, 8:15. Go ahead.
What if you put it, let's say you put it at 7:45 to 8:01, will it show up on both days?
If you put 7:45, it's going to show up on yours. I wasn't sure about that, honestly, and we did it earlier, and anything before 8 o'clock is going to show up on yours that day.
But they can go back and find it.
Yeah, they can do that, and it's all about your method, however y'all want to do that. If you want it to show up on theirs, put it after 8 o'clock, like this. You'll select activity code. He put a pass on in your activity code. Truck is down, mirrors broke, got truck one back from garage, you know, whatever notes you need to put in there. And then, oh, I forgot to change this second date. Start and end date both have to be on the same day. And you click add. Now on 11, you notice where we've been putting pass off. So tomorrow he can come in, and when he signs in, Station 1 is going to see this pass on log sitting there waiting on him, because it should be the only thing that's on there, because I put it on from the day before. So as soon as he logs in, that will be there. It'll stick to that day from now on, unless he changes it or manipulates it. As calls start coming in and people start putting communications checks and stuff, it will start moving. It'll stay on the bottom and be moving all the way down, because that stuff fills in on the top. But it will be there for him to see. So y'all can play with that a little bit and figure out what's the best method, what works best for y'all. But it is there to use. All right. Any questions about the daily log? You can delete these when somebody makes an error on an entry. If you don't have a trash can, it's a security setting. So if that's something that you need to have access to, you can delete some of these. You need to talk to your admin and say, hey, you need to fix the security setting on that. Anywhere in there where you see other people have trash cans and you don't, or other people can make something changes and save, it's all about security settings, and those can be tweaked. All right, last thing on the home page is this left side. These are all modules. Every one of these are different modules that are within the system. According to your security settings, some of these you may not even know are there. You won't see them. If you've got none set to security, it's probably because something the department's not going to really use right now. You won't even know it's in the system until those are turned on. But they are there. They're just hidden. Got inventory, reports, events, daily roster, payroll, demographics, my profile, all that kind of stuff. Anywhere you're at in the system, if you hover over that home button, instead of pushing it, it's going to ghost all those modules on the left side so that you don't have to go all the way back home to go somewhere else in the system. So if I wanted to go from here straight into training, I can do that without having to go home first. Just a simple, try to make it a little bit quicker for you. Any questions about anything on this screen? All right, I say we take 5 minutes. Everybody get up and walk around, use the restroom, get you some coffee, and then we will dive off into the rest of it. Look at this cord. So I can slide this forward and mute this.
Yep, absolutely. Good idea.
Maybe get back to the station a little early.
Yeah.
All right, we've hit the home screen, I feel like, very deeply. He's had to do it twice now, so I know he's super thrilled. But
I'm learning stuff.
we're going to move on beyond the home screen a little bit. All this stuff I just showed you with it is in that support page. I mean, well spelled out for you if you need to look at it and check it out. You've also, did I give everybody a card yet? I don't think I gave everybody. I'm also going to give you my card. It's got my email address and it's a phone number that actually calls my cell phone. And feel free to use that email or that cell phone number at any point when you get to where you're using part of this program that maybe you just don't remember what I described, or something that's confusing, or maybe even something that I tell you that's conflicting. You realize it doesn't work the way I showed you. Call me and ask me, you know, and we'll work it out. I'm wrong on some stuff. So I'm really good on some of the stuff that we use every day, and some of the other stuff I'm a little rusty on. So don't hesitate to give me a shout if you need some help. All right, what we're going to do before we get into incidents and all that is we're going to touch the calendar. And I think I may show you my profile because that'll take me a minute and a half maybe to show you. But we're going to look at that calendar, and this is for your daily functioning between your station and your station's personnel and that kind of thing, so you can keep up with what's supposed to be done that day. Maybe you're stepping up for somebody else. This would be a good way to walk in that morning, sign in, and see what they had planned to be done already. So just go ahead and get into calendar module. You click on it. You notice up here at the top, anytime you log into one of these modules, it's going to pop up the same button. Like if you're in occupancies, that would say occupancy right there. Hydrants, hydrant right there. That button is just added to let you come back to this first page of that module. So if we get anywhere in here that's deep into the module and we don't want to go all the way back out, hunt for calendar again, all you got to do is hit that button and it's going to bring you back to the first page.
Yeah, mine doesn't, nothing's populating on my calendar.
I must have got tired of you mouthing off yesterday or something.
He doesn't have anything either.
Okay,
I don't know, I guess that's a question.
this may be why. Okay, when you open up the calendar, you're going to see up under legend, you're going to see that I've got a big blue bright dot next to events. Calendar items, a big orange bright square next to calendar. If I don't want to see, once this starts getting a lot of stuff on it, like if you ever got into training, all the training is going to start populating on here. To get that stuff off the calendar to make it more clear, all you got to do is touch that colored box and it's going to make it small and dull. And we'll take it off the calendar. So if I want those calendar items to go away, I touch it, it's going to get small and dull and they're gone. They won't be on there anymore. Events, same way, small and dull. So if you don't see anything, it's probably because everything in that legend is small and dull. So to see calendar items, I click on it and it becomes big and bright again and they'll all show up back on the calendar. Below that, you'll see where it says shifts. If you click on it, I can turn that on by clicking that gray box, and then I can turn on which shift I want to see. So if I want to see which days are A shift, I can click that blue shifts box, and it's going to put blue dots on every A shift. It's also going to show me who's set up under A shift in the shifts module. Your admin set it up to where these people are under your shifts module. If he's got them set up to be off that day through the shifts module, you'll see where they're off and where somebody else is working, that kind of thing. Down below that, you're going to see where the calendar items for whatever day you're on, whatever day you've selected, those are the calendar items that have been put on there. If you don't want to see all those people and calendar items, you simply shut that shift off and it'll take that list of people away. And all you'll see is your calendar items, all up to whatever you want to view and see. So on this day, we know grass cutting is this day. It's got a title, it's got a description under there. So if you wanted to add something to this, if you don't have the add item button, it is a security setting. So if that's something that you need to be able to do for your station, get in touch with your admin and say, hey man, I can't add things to the calendar. Can you add that for me? And it'll either tell you yes or no, one of the two. So if you want to add something to that calendar, you would click add item, and it's going to pop up this real simple little box where you put, name something that would go on there if you were out of work. What do you think? Territory training? Territory training. And in your mind, whoever's kind of setting the schedule, this needs to happen whether I'm here or not that day. So I'm going to set this up for what day? Today's the 10th. Let's say it's next shift, the 13th. I'm going to say territory training in the plantation territory, I'm guessing. I heard people keep saying plantation with hydrants and stuff. So plantation territory training. And I add it to that calendar. So as long as people have their calendar notifications turned on, you know, and you can even get in there and edit this. If you want, say, station 61 or 62, I don't know how you name your stations. You can put your station number beside there, station 63 hydrants. Now, the thing is, you're going to see everybody's entries for that day. But if you have your calendar items turned on and you notate for what station that entry's for, they're going to see it on their home screen. So just like today, I've got grass cutting. When I signed in, I've got my calendar items turned on. I see where it says grass cutting, cut, edge, sweep. If it was a specific station thing, I could have grass cutting, maybe put, is there a station 62 or is that how you name them? Station 62, grass cutting. And I would see that on my home page whenever I signed in. So that may be one way to notify each other kind of what's expected that day. If you got hydrants planned for that day, doesn't matter if you're sick or not, you still want them to happen. So whoever's kind of scheduling that stuff out may put it on there for your step up, some notes for them to make sure they get some certain things done. The event stuff, we looked at it and played with it, and it's more designed for like a PR event, something that you would pull a specific report on. So if it's something you really need good specific reports on and maybe a printout, that's more what an event's for. Doesn't give you information like this though. I'm just going to show it really quick. If you go into an event, you'd want to look at the event list by category. You'd have to pick one of these. These can be added and adjusted, like a public relations event. I want to add one. So I'm going to say today we've got a fire setter counseling, name it, length, 4 hours, location, blah, blah. And then you're going to label the personnel that are involved. So we'll say these 3 people are dealing with the juvenile fire setter training today. I click next. It's going to let me authorize it. Put my password in. And it's going to put it on the list. Now this would be, I guess, for more of a formal type of thing, something you really want to document and pull a specific report on, especially on the number of hours spent, that kind of thing. But on the calendar, when I turn my events on, it shows up as event scheduled. It doesn't show up as juvenile fire setter training. That might would fix it if it did that, but it doesn't. Same thing on your home screen. If you have those turned on, all it's going to say is view all events, and you look at the list of stuff that's planned. So it doesn't work as functional as the calendar would work for y'all, just trying to pass on, hey, I want this done, this kind of thing done. Take a little more work for someone to just see it. All right, I do want to touch on my profile real quick. I hadn't even thought about this and some of the others. It's a simple little thing that everybody should have. My profile, all it's going to do is it's going to figure up your stats, something fun for everybody. Says I've been in one call so far this year. I'm ranked 36th in the department. I've had this many EMS, this many fire calls, which ranks me 14th in the department. Stuff like that. Over time, as it builds up, that becomes kind of a fun thing, especially for some of the younger guys that are running lots of calls. Makes them realize their importance within the agency. Personnel info, personal info. This is going to show what they've got my personal info set up as. I can't edit it. Only an admin can edit this stuff, but it is a good way for you to glance and make sure this information is correct and that you can, it's a kind of your way of QA and your own personal and contact information. Contact info. It's going to put your contact, your home address, and it's going to put your emergency contact. So that might be a good one to QA and at least look at every once in a while. And if something's incorrect or has changed, you would go to an admin and let them know, hey, this has changed, can you change it? And then you would actually be able to see when those changes were made. Certifications. Let me...
So we can't edit our contact information?
No, you can't edit your contact, and you can't upload your own certificates, but you can view all that stuff, which would be your way of QAing it. An admin would have to do that. It's like I was telling him, I a while back posted an idea, I think it's still in there, where people could upload their own certificates at the very least and maybe edit their own contact info at the very least and it not take effect until an admin reviews it and make sure it's what he wants in there. Because that would take a lot of work off your admin, because that's a lot of work when you go to start putting people's certificates in. I'll show you my profile, what it'll look like once your stuff, if your stuff is going to go in this way. See my personal info, it's got my name, contact info, all right there, my wife's number and stuff, emergency contact, and that's all that's good, so I can QA it, say, okay, let's move on. Certifications. This is where, this is handy for my profile, because once those are in there, your 3-ring binder and trying to keep your house floods, catches fire, any of that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter, it's all saved and you're good. And you can print these from your screen. So we'll look, something worth, maybe instructor 1. You click on that file and it's going to pull your certificate up and you can print it straight from there. So you always have your certificates as long as you've got internet connection. Handy, handy, handy little feature. All right, and that's all about my profile that we'll hit. There's not much more to it. Any questions about that or the calendar? Okay, Message Center, I'm not even going to touch. It's super simplistic. Only thing will touch it, I guess, for a second. Only thing I want to tell you is that when you go to create a message, the way you put names and stuff in there is not by typing them. That confuses a lot of people. You'll hit internal message and it lets you pick who you want to send the message to. I should have mentioned that to some classes before, because they'll be trying to type. It doesn't do that. It picks out of this picker. If you want to choose everybody in the department, the plus button at the top is a select all. Same thing with a remove everybody. The minus button at the top is a delete all. Or you can just hand pick. It's also got a grid where I can just go for just captains. I can go for just assistant chiefs. You know, you can whittle it down, just A shift, just B shift, that kind of thing with the internal messaging. To get rid of this, notice there's no cancel. If you don't want it, this has to be empty at top and hit save and it'll go away. External email, this is going to be linked into that's odd. It's going to be linked into your personnel file. If you have an email address attached, this will send an external email. They can't reply to you and it come back into ER. And they won't see anything unless you sign it. They won't see that this is from Johnny Phelps. All it'll say is an emergency reporting customer, and send it to them. All right, That's all. The rest of this is self-explanatory. Works just like your typical little messaging center. All right, let's get into the meat. Let's get into incidents. Just below home, you're going to have incidents. This is where all your run reports and your calls that you go on, this is where all that storage is. The first page you look at is nothing more than one giant search engine and filtering engine. Most of them, I don't remember what they're defaulted to. I think all calls last 30 days. I think is what everybody should be defaulted to naturally. Any changes you make to that filter are going to stick. So next time you sign in, if you've left it on reviewed calls, that's what you're going to see. So these don't just go away. You adjust them as you need to. So right now I'm looking at all calls for the last 30 days. Let's see if there's any incomplete. Yeah, there's a bunch in here. If I want to look at incomplete calls for the last 30 days, I click on incomplete calls and search it out. There are none. What about this year? Oh, I'm in Aniston's. That's why. And you notice how I saw nothing on incomplete calls. All I saw were reviewed calls. So when we start talking about you looking for your reports that you need to complete, look at it as a system that's up and running and people are QAing stuff daily, that kind of thing. It's not near as difficult to find stuff that's not done yet, because all the stuff from yesterday will be done. They're all going to be reviewed and done, except maybe one that was at 2 in the morning or 2 or 3 or something like that, just a couple. You're not going to have 70 calls up there that you're having to look through to figure out what do I need to do to this. Right at first, it's going to be a little confusing because you're going to have tons of incomplete calls that have been imported, tons of stuff like that that aren't going to be there when y'all go live. So when we go into incidents and look at all calls for the last 30 days, you get this huge list of things. Normally, when you're up and running, you're not going to have a huge list of incomplete or completed calls or something. You're going to see a bunch of green locks where all that's done. It's done from yesterday. All you got to focus on is the stuff that gets incompleted and completed from today. So when you're looking at these incompleted calls, these are what your CAD pushes are going to look like. It's going to push it in just like that, and that's a CAD push. This is a CAD push. This is a CAD push. So you'll be looking over to the right, finding the address, finding the call you just went on, and I'll show you some other ways to search that out just for your truck. But looking over to the right and double clicking and going into that call and finishing it out and be done with it. I'm going to,
on any part, right?
oh yeah, double click. Now I'm in that call and I can go into it and start fixing it up and getting it ready. We'll hit a CAD dispatch call here in a minute. I'm going to show you how this filtering and search engine works real quick, and then we're going to build our own call from scratch. And then we'll go into a CAD and show you how CAD helps you out and makes that a little faster. So on the multi-record search, you can choose all calls, incomplete calls, and reviewed. And you've also got a picker down here to pick only my incidents. That front screen where it says I have one incomplete incident assigned to me. If I click on that incomplete incident, it takes me to that. Notice it checks that for me, and it checks incomplete calls. All that does is set the filters for me. That's all it's doing. So I see the one call that I'm assigned to that's incompleted. That means I need to go in and finish it. Same thing with reviewed. Instead of it saying incomplete, you hit that button, it's going to say, what are the completed calls for the last 30 days? So there's 2 calls sitting here waiting to be reviewed and done. So that's all this multi-record search does, is let you kind of set this screen up the way you want to see it. Next to it is a tab that says single record search. This is going to allow you to choose your incident number to search a call out with. So you put a specific number in you're hunting down, hit search, and it's going to pull it up. Next to that is your advanced search. What advanced search does is let you set multiple filters, all kinds of things in there to track down over. You got to think 4 years down the road, there's going to be lots and lots and lots of calls in here. This is the way you narrow it down to find exactly what you're looking for from 5 years ago. Somebody comes in and says, I think somewhere in 2012 we had a structure fire and I need the insurance, I need the report for insurance because we never did anything, something. You can find it easy with this, real easy. If you're wanting to look for Engine 62's calls for today. Right now your CAD is not pushing your station at all. That kind of stuff's being looked at and worked on. ZolCAD's not pushing us your alarm time. That kind of stuff's being worked on right now. But right in the beginning, you're going to have a couple little gaps that take a little bit of time to get filled. So you can search those calls out without just looking on the front page and searching, say if it was being pushed, say your shift and your station was being pushed, I could put A shift, station 62. And that's all I want to look at is A shift station 162's calls. It would list them right there. And that's all you'd see, and it would stay that way every time you logged in until you changed it. But since it's not pushing those two things, I need to change my search, take that shift off in station since they're not getting pushed. It is pushing your truck. So I'm going to pick engine 62 and maybe set the date for today, 02/10/2016 through tomorrow. And hit search. Now that's going to show everything that started this morning at midnight, and if they've completed and reviewed it, you may see a couple of their calls in here, but those will be very obvious that they weren't your call. For one thing, at 2 in the morning, you know that wasn't your call. And then tomorrow, it will also show your reviewed and completed calls unless you filter those out too. So these you know are your calls, and that's a way to set that filter up. This advanced search filter, you can filter that way more than that. So let's say I want to see, I think I set up a lockout, a 511. Only the 511s that engine 62 has run from today till tomorrow morning, and search those out. None. I thought I'd set one up. Or if I want to go in, take that single incident off, and I want to see every fire, which would be a 100 through a 173. That engine 2 or engine 62 has ever been a part of. Search. And it's going to show 4 right now. And that's just because the way the imports that were done on the system, some of them probably incorrect. And as time goes, I could see from the day this started, 17 years down the road, how many fires engine 62s ran. I can even go in and see, so engine 62, I want to know, what's your name? Chris. Chris Krieger. I want to know how many calls Chris Krieger has ran on engine 62 that were fire related right now, since I don't have a date set for all time, which is probably going to show nothing right now. But then 15 years into his career, I could go and tell you exactly how many calls this joker has ran that has been anything to do with fire, whether it's brush fire, kitchen fire, or I can go see how many lockouts Chris has ran, not even on engine, just period, even when he's working over. My whole point is you can really filter this to exactly what you want to see. It's a great feature within the program that a lot of people, it takes them months and months and months of actually using this, and all of a sudden it hits them. Hey, what's this advanced search thing? So you can see exactly what you want to see. Now, if I leave these here, even if I move around, or if I log out right now, when I come back in, this advanced search is going to stick. It's still going to show me what Chris has been on in the last, since all time that's in this system on engine 62. So you have to change that if you want it to show you different things. So don't let it confuse you when you come in and you're like, whoa, I know we've had calls today. It's something you've set that's stuck. So that's your advantage. Any questions about that? I feel like that's it's something you need to get in there and play with and see what all it'll do. But you see all the options in here and all the different ways you can set this up, and they all work together. So I can completely change this setup by just taking the apparatus off.
This is another security level based thing, like not everybody has the same options. I'm kind of starting to see that.
What does it say in there?
I don't, like I can search for an agency staff member, but.
Apparently so. That's one thing, honestly, I didn't know. I would imagine, since you said that, maybe a supervisor and admin would have all these options that I've got. So yeah, maybe security settings will affect your options on this some.
Are they having any problems with pushing multi-units between county and us? Do you know?
We have not.
Because we have a firehouse, but.
Chief's been tracking it. because the CAD's been up and running and dumping calls for about almost 3 weeks now. And he's been tracking it, and they've all been coming over spot on. So I don't, it might be a firehouse issue. No, that's not saying it won't, but it seems like it's coming in correctly.
All right. Any questions about the advanced search features or how to search around this page at all? That's all this front page is it's a grid page like we call it through the rest of them. Be able to search the calls out, find what you want, exactly what you want. Sticks, it's not going away as soon as you get it set. Commercial break. Let me know if y'all need a break. We'll take a break, okay? All right, that's your advanced or all your search features in here. Up across the top, you notice where it says results found. That's how you're going to see with whatever you got it filtered down to. So right now it's got 77,331 calls within the system. That's all calls for all time. So if I break it down the last 30 days, how many does it have in it? It's going to search it out and tell me there's 46 results found. Right beside that, it's got download CSV. Anything you've filtered out and pulled up information, anywhere within the system, you'll see download CSV. That you hit that button, it's going to download it into an Excel spreadsheet. It's only going to download into the Excel spreadsheet what you filtered out. So right now, these 46 calls, if I hit that button, it's going to put all the information from these 46 calls onto an Excel spreadsheet. If I had 17,000, I think 330 something, if I hit download CSV, it puts all that information into an Excel spreadsheet for me. Reason that's even beneficial is places like hydrants, places like personnel files, you know, because there's a grid list for all your names in there and your little line just like that. I can download all that information into CSV and then delete columns that I don't want in there. The city council wants your name, your start date, your date of birth, or city council, mayor, whoever, that information. But when I pull a file in here, it shows your name, start date, date of birth, your wife's contact information, your husband, whoever your emergency contact information is, your social security number, and your home address. I can download that into an Excel spreadsheet and get rid of all that information that they don't need, I don't want them to have, and send them exactly what they want in a matter of 3 or 4 minutes. Just tries to make stuff a little bit easier. If you need this call information to justify something, this is a way just to pull that information. If you got somebody you run over and over and over 100 times in a year that you're wanting to figure out a way to get them bed rails so that you're not at their house 2 or 3 times a shift picking them up out of the floor. You can filter it down to where it just shows those calls, throw it into an Excel spreadsheet, and you've got all the information you need, and it's just those calls that are on there. Next to it, you've got the export Google Earth. That's the map with the red arrow. If you got Google Earth on your computer, it's helpful and you can throw layers in. Next to that is your switch to map view. This is really handy and kind of fun to play with on your calls. When you switch to map view, it's going to default to heat map. It's only showing the 46 calls that I've got pulled up for the last 36 days. So your heat map is going to show hotspots within the city. So with 46 calls, you're going to see some green as you start to back out of it. It's going to show that the hotspot's right there because it starts merging them together. Now, if I go all calls for this year, we should grow it some. No. This year and last.
It's kind of hot over Tally Road, it looks like.
Everybody says Tally Road.
Yeah, look at the hot spot.
All right, now you notice as it's loading, I've got 11,000 calls that are going into it now. It's a different picture, right? So if I search out just structure fires, that's the only information I'm wanting to see. Where are my target points? Where are we running the most with structure fires? You can do that with this heat map. This is all calls. This is everything you're running. So it's EMS, REX, structures, everything. And you can zoom in and start identifying some of those spots that you maybe run the most. There's a little hot spot. So obviously that's been ran to more than one time. And over 5 or 6 years, these pictures start really painting a good idea of maybe where some of these spots where maybe a little tougher fire prevention starts getting pushed into. Or if you got some major medical problems, it helps identify some of those homes where you've got some assisted living that you're just running left and right that may need some help, you know. You can also change this heat map, which is defaulted to a pin map. And a pin map, whenever you see these symbols, it's just because there's multiples. You're not close enough to be able to spread them out some. As you get closer, it starts breaking those down. So you got 8 calls at the hospital. You got one right here. When you click on those symbols, when you can break them down into actual individuals, you click on it, it's going to tell you the run number, what it was, the address, and you can actually get in there and mess with it a little bit if you've got the right security clearance. You can mark it to satellite. You can, any one of these maps, you can go to satellite view and you can drop your person at to get a front end view of the structure or whatever. So know that that is there. This is taking a while to upload. Come on. Okay.
Good north.
And any of these north,
Yeah. Let's see, it had like 126 calls.
You go left a little bit. 449 calls, really.
Yeah, I bet you that's it.
ah,
Tally Road.
is that it right there?
Yep.
330.
337. Darn Tally. Yep.
So that'd be a hot spot
Yes.
on y'all's heat map right there. Any of these maps like this, when you see the word hydrants and occupancies, it's an overlay or a layer you can add into the system, so you can throw your hydrants in there, and they're all touchable too. You can click on the hydrant, see the address, you can go in and print it, actually get into the hydrant where you can edit it, take you straight into it. You can start a flow test directly from these spots, and you can go into their work orders directly from that spot. Same thing with occupancies. You can overlay your occupancies. When an occupancy is put in here, once the pre-plan starts getting built, you can click on that occupancy. Should have the name, and then you can go into all the information and pre-plans and everything about that occupancy straight off the map. Just mainly wanted you to know that that map view was there and all the different little things you can do with the map. Something you need to play with, that if you don't play with it, nobody even know it's there until you show them. So, all right, that's the search features. That's your grid page. That's your map views, everything about this front screen of your incidents. We're going to start on, do we need a break? 5-minute break real quick? Let's take a 5-minute break. Let y'all stand up and walk around and stretch. We'll knock an incident out real quick.
I guess Tally's a hot spot.
All right, what we're going to do, we're going to create some calls from scratch. Y'all are welcome to follow along or create one on your own. These are all can be deleted out. You're not live yet, so you're not going to mess anything up if you want to, or you can just follow me, whatever you want. All right, to start a new call in here from scratch. CAD didn't send it. For some reason, you need to create this from scratch. The way you do that is up by home screen, you've got a new button. Just click that new button and it's going to start your new call. Anything that's red within our system, and I think this is a theme throughout a lot of these programs and stuff, has got to be filled in, or otherwise you can't complete the thing. There's a few things in here that your admin can actually go in and make as unrequired or required. A couple of them, stuff like dispatch run number, zone, county, just 5 or 6 different things is all he can do to adjust that kind of stuff. The rest of it is a NIFRS requirement. NIFRS says you got to have it in there. That's the whole point of the system, is to be completely NIFRS compliant and make it really easy to be NIFRS compliant. As you'll see, there's not a lot that whenever you go to start answering these questions, that as long as you have started the report right by putting the right incident type and answered your questions correctly as you go, shouldn't be asking you stuff that you don't know already, or at least are able to find easily. So if you get to something like that, then you probably answered something wrong or put the wrong type of call in. So we're going to run through one real quick, one of your normal, simple, probably everyday type of calls. I'm at station 61. I'm on A shift. The date is today. Anything that's orange is a help, something that's supposed to make it a little bit quicker for you. You can choose next ID. I don't know if that's going to work since you've got CAD, or you can type it in. Same thing with the dispatch run number. I'm just going to type some random stuff in and maybe it won't kick it back. It's not going to let you duplicate an incident number. It'll warn you and say you can't do this, that one's already in the system that's got this incident number on. So then either somebody else has started one or you put the wrong incident number in, one of the two. Incident type, you can type it in if you know it already. I know a lockout's a 511, so I could type it in and move on, or I can use that list button beside there. I can search through this list button by using my categories, which will narrow it down and shoot me to that area. So lockout would be a service call, so it's going to shoot me to that area. Or anytime in these browsers all have these built in, any type of browser you use, to where instead of having to hunt for it, I can hit Control F, and it's going to bring a find box down. It may look a little bit different in different browsers, but does the same thing. So if I was to type lock in right there, it's going to tell me it lists the word lock in this 4 times. And gives me the option to, I can look at the first one of 4, go down to the second one, third one, or 4th one within the system. Say that's the one I want, lockout. Or I can use this right bar over here where it's highlighted where those words actually are to find them, where they'll be highlighted. That's not the ones I want, that's the one I want, and click on it. So it's just a little help in case you're interested in using that. And go on to the next page. All my red's filled out, I can move on. See, it screams at me. My incident number may only be 7 characters long. Okay. My next page, basic info 2. You notice all this stuff shot up here. This is how my report's built. My first 2 basic info pages are green. The reason this one's already green is because it's defaultly answered for you already. The only reason you even stop to change these, this is the only spot that you can turn on a page to record owner information. So if you want to record the information on a basic call. So if you want to record owner information about an MVC, if you need the owner's information, if I went to this lockout and I want to record the owner's information that I showed up to help them get into their house call or whatever, I could turn that on and that will give me that information down the road. If somebody got hurt on scene, say me and you were at a lockout and you tripped on the porch and broke your ankle and we had to send you to the hospital or we had to treat you somehow, I could turn this on as a fire service casualty to record your information and say, hey, you got hurt on this scene, I just want to record it. Casualty is anybody that gets injured. It doesn't have to be a death, anything like that. I'm going to click no and leave the people on there. Same thing, works the exact same way, just opens a separate box. And I'm going to click next. Since I answered yes on that, and because of the type of call I put in here, that's why this report is built this way. It opened up a people box for me to record that information and not much else because it's a simple call. If it was a fire, a big building fire, it would open fire, structure fire information as well. It's all about what you put in. So if I looked up here right now on this lockout and there was a structure fire box, it's because I put the wrong thing in. So all I'd have to do is go back to the first page and change that to fit what I actually ran. So if it sends you a structure fire for as your CAD, it's going to open up this big report unless you fix it and say, no, it wasn't a structure fire, dude, it was just a smoke complaint. Because you can't answer structure fire information on a smoke complaint. So anything that you're unable to answer, this incident type is wrong, because it should not open up anything that you're not going to have that information on. So for this lockout, we're good. Oh man, I went back and messed it up.
Now, do you have to keep on hitting save, or can you just keep on?
The only time you have to hit save is when you go back and change something. Now, normally, if you're just filling in information as you go, you can keep hitting next and then auto saves. But you'll notice there's some quirkiness like that. If I go back to info page 1 and make any kind of change or anything, it won't save it unless I hit the save button. So it becomes a good habit to hit that save button, but you don't always have to. Okay, now we're at the location. CAD will push this stuff. All this stuff should be filled out except for your zone and property use. But you do have to kind of peek at it, make sure it's correct. Make sure if CAD pushed one address and it actually was the next door neighbor, you would have to go in and fix it here. One thing Chief Mara pushed that he wants done in this, I'll show you in a second. Say this was a wreck and the address was already put in 2025. I try to remember Walmart.
2500.
2025, is it 01? Is that what they said? 2500.
No, 2500 is the citrus,
Which is fine, that'd be fine. 2500 Citrus.
Tower, or not Tower, Citrus Boulevard.
Citrus Boulevard, Leesburg, Florida. It's going to pull a drop down as soon as you start to type that street name, and this is from scratch. start to type that street name, and you can choose out of that drop down, and it'll fill in your city, state, and zip automatically for you. City code and county code are black, they're not required. Notice longitude and latitude aren't filled in from scratch. Your CAD, that will be filled in already. So I know we're on a lockout call, but say this was a wreck. What Chief Mara wants done, notice it's got its map. You can hit that map and it's going to pin it wherever you said it was supposed to be. Well, when you have an address, a specific address, it's going to be pinned to an occupancy, some kind of building or something like that. Well, a wreck would come in maybe at this address, but is not actually in the middle of this building. So he would like you to pull the map up. You notice the pin's in the middle of the building. Click move and grab that pin and put it out here where the wreck happened, maybe at this intersection. Maybe put exact spot of impact. It's in this lane right here or something, and hit OK. And what that's going to do is fix the lat and long, even if CAD pushed it, and it's going to show where this accident happened in the street, not actually in the middle of that building. And the reason he wants that done is if you have a major intersection problem where you need a red light, or you have a problem where the turn lane is engineered, after a few years this information will build up and you can pull reports on this stuff and show the exact problem and go to DOT with that and say this needs to get fixed, we're running this over and over and over. If you leave that pin in the middle of the building, it looks like that wreck happened in the building. Somebody, maybe a forklift wreck or something like that. So good thing to look at, but the only thing he wants that done on is wrecks, because a building, you're not going to have that problem with structure fires or medical calls or anything that's actually at that address, just wrecks. This should all be filled in already for you though by CAD. All you're going to have to do is pick the zone and property use. So we'll say this one's residential. You can use the Control F if you want. And a 1 or 2 family dwelling. Once those are all filled in, you can move on to the next page. Notice it turned green, so I know everything's filled in right, I can move on. This is your apparatus page. Again, we're doing this from scratch. CAD will push this stuff and you'll see it. Right now, CAD is not pushing your alarm time, so you're going to have to go in and put that in, but it'll all be set up already for you. You're not going to have to do this thing we're fixing to do. This box is meant for mainly volunteers, or say y'all have a massive structure fire where you have a call out and you pull people in that are normally off duty. Maybe they even show up to scene, not on an apparatus, in their own POVs. You can put them on the call without sticking them on a truck. You click the list button, you hit the plus button next to anybody that was actually on that scene that wasn't on an apparatus, and save. And it's going to put them in the call but not show where they were on one of your engines. To add a truck, you hit add apparatus. I know this page looks daunting. All this stuff will be filled out with CAD anyway. Right now we're not on CAD. We're fixing to go live with Spillman CAD next, I think the live date's next week. So my guys do this for every call, and it really, honestly, when they go through a call, some of them on their cell phone in the back of the truck on the way back to the station, it takes them 1.5 minutes to be through all of this because they're used to it and it's quick and easy. Apparatus ID, you're going to choose your truck, engine 62. It went lights and sirens. It is not red, so you don't have to. He could turn that on, but it's not. If you want to record that, you can. You got orange helps beside you, so I'm going to say it's a call that happened today, this morning at 0800. I can hit fill dates and fill times to make this quicker for me. Alarm date's filled in at 0800. It's dispatched at the same time. Since CAD's not pushing your alarm date, that's what he wants you to do, is go back in, fill in that alarm date and time, and make it the exact same thing that the dispatch date and time is. That way you don't have to look it up, nothing like, just make it 0800 just like your dispatch date is. We'll say we were en route at 8:01. We arrived at 8:05, and we cleared the scene at 8:30. If you know those times, stop. If you know those times, it is honestly that fast to do it on any call you're going. In quarters and in service are not required. In order to make this report work out right, I would have to change those to be after 8:30. So instead of that, I'm just going to X, and that's going to delete them out and get rid of them. They're not required anyway. Okay. Over here to the right, if you're doing this from scratch, your rosters are going to be built every day, so you can click fill from roster, and it's going to fill everybody that's rostered on that truck that day. If for some reason your roster's not built, all you got to do is go to this list below, and if you want to filter it out to A shift, you can do that, or you can just go through the whole list. and all you got to do is hit the plus buttons, and that assigns them to that truck automatically. It's that simple, just touch plus. If there's a mistake here, somebody was on the roster and say Chris actually left to go meet his wife for dinner, took some comp time, whatever, all you got to do for this call is take that minus button and get him off that truck for that day. So my people and my times are all set for this truck. I click next. It's going to show up like that. That little green box means everything is good with that apparatus. When you see these, every truck that went is going to have its own line, separate line like this, already up there with their times. It's going to be missing alarm time for now. Zoll fix that problem. To edit these and go in there and fix it, you're also going to see a red box there. That means it's not complete, and it's not going to let you complete the report till it's done. You just touch that engine's number. I go in here, set my alarm time to the exact same as dispatch time, check, make sure the people are correct, and I'm going to hit next. It should show up with a little green box. It should take you just a couple of seconds to throw that in, and you're done with it. We're done with apparatus, so we're going to move on to the next page, the last basic info page. The only thing required on here is what's your primary action taken. For us, we're going to say it was provide manpower since we were on this lockout call. And we're going to move on to the next one. Now, all the basic info is complete. It's green. This is the box, the people box, to record that owner information that I asked it to. It says it's required right now because I told it I wanted to. So you'll notice when I click to add this person, everything is black. So I can add, if I don't have a name, all I've got is a phone number, some kind of contact or some little bit of information I wanted to throw in there, that's all I've got to add. So I'm going to add this phone number in there, and that's all I'm going to put because I don't know his name, I don't know his birth date or address, but it is all there for you to put in if you want to. And I'm going to click next, and it's going to save that one person. I can add as many as I want to that. And notice my people turned green. If I didn't put anything in there and click next, it would turn green. All that's doing is you told it, I want a place to put some people information in. So that's not going to log you up or make this report a lot longer by adding that. Next button is going to take me to my narrative page. Click Edit Narrative to start. I'm going to write test. Notice that it found my misspelled word. It works just like Word. You can right click it and fix it. I was trying to put something on there that would say add to dictionary or whatever. Freakishness though, we'll say that one worked. This narrative is the only place in here when you get more than one person working on it at the same time on different devices. You may not even realize she's working on it, or she may not realize you've jumped in trying to work on it. It will throw up an error and tell you 500 error. That means somebody else is trying to work on this narrative at the exact same time, and it freaks it out a little bit. Anywhere else within this program, doesn't matter if all of us are in this report right now working on it, we can. It's not going to hurt anything. You can be doing basic info 1, I can be doing 2, 3, 4, 5 narrative, and you can be adding files all at the same time. We can knock it out in 15 seconds and be done with it. So if you're taking pictures at a scene, wanting to add to files, you can be doing that while she's doing another part of the program, part of the report. You're not going to lose any data in this. Say my computer dies right now and shuts down, or I break it, drop it, whatever. Something, power goes out, lightning hits it. It automatically saves it as an incomplete report wherever you left off. And so you would go back into incidents, find it, and get in there and finish it. Narrative, it's the only part where you'll lose a tiny bit of data. It auto saves every 20 seconds. So as I'm typing, 20 seconds has been by, so this would be saved automatically. But if I went and started typing right now and my computer died, test wouldn't be on there because it hadn't had time to automatically save it. It's also got a box down here where you can just notate where other people were on scene, fire, utilities, law, EMS, whatever. Maybe for this lockout we probably would have possibly had law there with us. And then we move on to the next page. Next page is where you put any files that you want to add to this. This is where your photographs, if you're using an iPad on scene, your cell phone, anything you think needs to be documented in this, and I go over this example every time, but lockout, we get there, they want us to help them get into their house, the door's damaged when I walk up to the porch. Maybe a good idea to snap a photo with my cell phone of the damage that's on that door before we ever touch it. And then I'll note that in my narrative. and throw that file in there just as proof. We didn't do that damage. If she ever comes back or he ever comes back and tries to say, fire department did this, I want a new door, you can show, no, before and after pictures, we didn't damage that door. It was already done, and we got in there without doing any damage. MVC, if you want to take pictures of a wreck and throw them into that file. If you have any kind of document that you want to add to the file, that way you don't have to store it, it's stored in there. You can scan it and use your computer to throw it in there. On your iPad or phone, unless you're in this report at this point right now on your iPad, if you are in this report, which I don't know why you would be on scene, but say you are, say it's a long scene, it is a fire. When you hit upload files on the iPad, it's going to show upload a photo or upload from your photo library. Take a photo or upload from your photo library, just like a text message. If you take the photo at that moment, it's going to shoot it in the report and not store it on your photo library, so it doesn't take any memory up. Or you can take them while you're on scene and then put them in the report down the road. And that would just be getting them out of your photo library, natty. After you're done with your files, you go on to the next, and that's going to be your authorized tab. If there's anything incomplete in the report, it's going to be an orange hyperlink right here. If my alarm time never got set, it'll be a hyperlink that I can touch to take me straight back to that page to fix my alarm time, just like most other programs do. If everything's good, everything's green, it's going to pull this up and let you complete this report. So you'll type your own password in and complete the report. Now that report has went from a red locked report to a yellow locked report. Now that's going to be sitting there waiting for review. Now I'm going to go over review right now, and then we'll come back and go through a dispatch call or a CAD dispatch call. So if you're the person that needs to review your shift's calls, this is where you're going to see that at first. You're going to see, hey, okay, there's 4 incidents waiting to be reviewed. That just means there's 4 completed calls sitting there. You could click on reviewed, and it's going to set all your filters and show you the 4 calls that are sitting there waiting to be looked at. Until you get your mode of operation down, by looking at these reviews, this bottom call may be a call from 2 in the morning from last shift. Whoever's in charge didn't have time, they didn't look at it, they're going to wait and do it next shift. So you would skip it, unless, depends on your department. My department, the assistant chief would skip it because they only review their shift's calls. They don't mess with other shifts. If your whole mode is to get them reviewed and get them done, you may go ahead and do that. But let's say this is your call to get it reviewed. You double click into it, and it's going to pull that screen up. There's a couple ways you can look at it to review it. I can hit the print button, which is not going to print it, it's just going to throw up a print screen. Check all and hit personnel, because I want to see the people, and hit print. It's going to throw up a print screen, not actually print it on a printer, but that's what it would look like if you chose now to print it. Go ahead. So you got this print screen up. From this print screen, you can see everything from incident type, who started it, to the narrative. You can read the narrative, to your truck and times, and all the way down to what personnel were assigned to that call. So if, say I looked at this and the narrative looks awful, misspelled words, blah, blah, whatever, something that you're not okay with as a shift leader and you need it to get fixed. My advice, rather than to go in and fix it yourself, is to shoot it back to them and let them fix it. Your mode of operation is yours, and that's yours only. You can do that however you please. These things are just time-stamped so well, if anything ends up in court, that may be a question put in. Why did you go in and change these times? You know, why you weren't even on the call? You know, that kind of stuff can come up. Plus, they'll never learn what you're looking for, and that's just from my guys and stuff. They'll never really understand what you're wanting to see unless you shoot it back and say, hey man, go ahead and fix this, whatever. The way you do that, well, I'll show you the other way. You can do that from the print screen and look, or you can just scroll through the call. It lets you do that by next. Okay. Or you can just touch narrative and look at just the narrative. Ooh, the narrative looks terrible, blah, blah, blah. I gotta complete it now. I messed it up by going back into it, I'm sorry. So you can dig through it and look at that. And plus, on the address one where we talk about moving that pin to the correct lane, for an MBC, you would have to go into that page and look at the map and make sure it got moved to the correct location. You can't do that from the print screen. So that might be the way, at least on MVCs, you go straight to that, make sure they move the pin, and then read the narrative. Make sure the narrative looks good. Now I'm going to complete it again because I accidentally incompleted it. Okay, so you're looking at this, you either went through it this way and looked to check everything, or you use the print screen to check everything. Doesn't look good. I don't like the narrative at all. It's terrible. So I'm going to hit Make Incomplete. What that's going to do is automatically put their email, whoever's assigned to the call's email in there, and it's going to give me a spot to make a note. Please fix your narrative, and I can put, you know, grammar's bad, misspelled, fix the times, whatever the problem is with the report, and hit Send Notification. What that will do is automatically incomplete it and make it red locked again, send me an email that gives me those instructions that you just typed in and said incomplete. It'll take it off your stuff to be reviewed. And on my home screen, it's going to tell me I have an incomplete incident that needs to be completed. So I get a couple of ways to notify me. If I want to go back in and fix it, now's the time I'd click on that. I'd get in there to this call that you just didn't completed. I'd fix the problems you said, and I would submit it to you to review again. So now that I've submitted it back, I've tried to make the changes, you can do the same thing. You can glance at it, make sure those changes were made. You're happy with it now. All you got to do is go in and authorize it, put your password in, and it's done. That's one way. That's if you're really having to scrutinize a call and really look through it to complete this individual call. I want you to notice before we move on and me show you how to completely review it. History details, that's where you go to see all those timestamps I was talking about for this call. Notice at the bottom it starts out when I created it, how I started it, my IP address, and who was doing it. Goes into every page I accessed, everything I did with that page. In the narrative, it's going to show me click and show any changes that happen, and that's in conjunction with that 20-second autosave. If I went in there just now and made more changes to the narrative, it would show if you got into here and made a change, it would show you. Well, here, Ryan Henry got in here at some point. He looked at my exposure narrative. He went into exposure authorized. He went into the files. If you had made a change to my narrative, it would show where those changes were made and exactly what they were, and your IP address and everything. So really well time-stamped, and they show every move that was made. Also, if this was one of those fires that you think possibly intentional and wanted to be investigated, this is another option a supervisor can do. Would have the option to, okay, we completed this report as much as we could. It needs to go to the fire marshal now. You can turn around and click on where that assigned to is and reassign that to your fire marshal. Reassign that call to him, and then make it incomplete, and it's going to show that he has an incomplete call, and plus it's going to show that he has a call assigned to him. So then all of a sudden that call is his to get into and do his part too. And then if he wants to, he can reassign it back, whatever your mode of operation becomes. But opens up those notifications to show him he's got a call. You can shoot him an email, shoot him when you mark incomplete, it'll shoot it to him. Tell him, hey, this is a suspicious thing. We got lots of pictures and files for you. We've taped it off. Can you go check this call out? And then complete this when you're done with it and let me know. But call's good, narrative's good, everything. All you got to do is put your password in. That call's reviewed and done. It'll be green locked and ready to go to NIFRS. If you've got multiple calls you're looking at reviewed and you've been kind of glancing at them, making sure the narratives look good, all that kind of stuff all along, you don't have to go into every one and do that whole process. You can check multiples. Say all these calls were your basic tiny little calls. You peeked at them, they're good. There's no reason to sit here and scrutinize every one of them. All you got to do is click multiples, type your password in up at the top, and hit update. Now every one of those calls have been reviewed and they're submitted to go to NIFRS, export. Are there any questions on your review process on how you QA that stuff? Because I think that's part of yours, right? You feel okay with at least starting to dive off? You got my number. and everything. So once this starts, if there's anything that I did that was confusing to you or something, I'm glad to help you over email. I'll set up a go-to meeting if I need to. We'll get you, make sure you're comfortable and good with that. The hard part about teaching that kind of stuff is there's so many different ways to do it and look at it. Each department kind of likes to figure out their own way and who's in charge of that and who's going to do this and that. And so it's kind of figuring out what works best for y'all. But I'll be glad to help you too on that. And I've tried to tell that to everybody because I know that can be a little confusing when I'm just bouncing around. All right. So that was creating one from scratch, going all the way through the review process. All those calls are ready to go to NIFRS now. So for y'all, a dispatch call, a CAD dispatch call, the way you're going to see them is like this over here. Whether you've got it advanced searched out to just so your trucks calls or whatever, this is how they're going to look when they populate. So I need to find one that is for sure dispatch, CAD dispatch. Do you see it?
One below that.
Okay, I'm about blind. So we're going to jump off into this one. The way you do it is double click into it, and this is what you're going to see. It's going to say click to assign. Don't worry about any of that. As soon as you start doing the report, it'll assign it to you automatically. So only thing that's been really assigned to this call is truck. No shift, no station. So when you do your search, you got to look for that truck's calls and probably narrow the dates down until that stuff starts pushing. When it starts pushing, you can set engine 62 A shift, and then all your calls will show up automatically. So to get into this, you pick the first box. All that stuff's CAD push, so it's none. You need to set your station. Let's do 62. And set your shift. Click next. Make sure that this 321 is accurate. Make sure the CAD pushed it right. Those are there to help you, but sometimes they're not going to be accurate. You may need to change that to fit what you actually ran. So we'll say 321 is an accurate report. I don't need to record anybody, people involved. I'm going to kind of move through this quick since I spent so much time earlier. So I'm going to move on. All right, it's got the address up here, but for some reason CAD did not push my city on this and zip. Let's see if this will do a... Tally Road, so I go up and retype that street name. If for some reason it doesn't push something like that, it still should use your drop down. You may have to backspace it out and start to type it, but we'll say that's right? Mm-hmm. Tally Road, and it'll fill in your city and zip. If you want to check the map, say this is an EMS call, maybe it's not important. If it's a wreck, you may want to check that map and make sure the pin's right. But it's an EMS call, we're not worrying about it. Zone 62, property use, it's going to be residential, 1 or 2 family dwelling on this one, and I go to next. There's my truck already populated in there. I already know that CAD is not pushing alarm time, so I'm going to have to get in there and add that. Touch the unit number. Alarm time, we know it's 02/10 of 2016, and the time is going to be the same as your dispatch, so I'm going to type 12/21/09. My people are right, so I don't have to mess with them. I'm going to go to next. Notice my little box is green, so I'm done with my apparatus. Move on to the last page. Primary action taken. We're going to say EMS provided BLS on this call. Nothing else is red. I can move on. Next. Narrative. Arrive to find so. Did so. Whatever your normal narrative would be. Typed in, I'm done with that. Click next. Any files I want to upload, if there was any pictures I happened to taken on scene that were important to me. If I walk into a business for this call and see some gross code violations that you may want your fire marshal or investigator to see, this would be a good spot. Go ahead and attach them to that report and tell him to look at it. That gives him probable cause to go in and fix those problems. So something he talked about yesterday a little bit. No files I want to add to this, so I move on to the last page, put my password in, and I'm done. And that was me slowing down to talk. I know the narrative I did a little quicker than it would take you, but normally a typical call that CAD has dispatched for you will take you a whole time of about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, maybe 3, once you get rolling. quick, quick, quick. Now she would go back. She would see that she's got something to review. Click on it. She knows it was CAD pushed. She may glance at your narrative and then say, okay, this one's done.
Now, how does it know that I'm reviewing it?
It does not. If any calls are sitting there, that would be.
So if Chris finishes the report, we're just all generally seeing that it's not being reviewed.
Right.
Because if I'm the report and the supervisor, then
You could
Chief
review-
Henry would have to know to check it, but it won't specifically send to him.
No. I mean, and you could go through the process of reassigning it to him. I think it's redundant and takes a little more time and maybe just too much work for people to do. But that is there if y'all would prefer to do that. Assign it to him so it's an incident. He's only looking at incidents assigned to him, and every time you push one to him, he'll see it. But normally, under this, like when it said I had one incident waiting to be reviewed, anybody who's got those turned on would see there's one incident waiting to be reviewed. I just know that's my job for the day. And if I just completed a report and it says one incident waiting to be reviewed, naturally I just wouldn't review my own report. I'd ask him, hey, you mind getting in there and reviewing that for me? And that's a department thing too. You can review your own report since you're a supervisor or an admin. Me personally, I prefer to other people to review mine because I do make a lot of mistakes. My fingers are heavy, so I may type something. I don't want a report going out that I look like a moron, you know, especially when someone's paying $10 to get a printed report. And then they get one and there's misspelled words and bad grammar. I don't want that.
The way we do it now, everybody kind of looks over, all the lieutenants are responsible for their own shift, but sometimes I'll review this.
Just kind of help each other out.
Yeah, I mean.
We all
it
make
bounces
errors.
around, so we all get on there and look at it.
Well, that's the way you would do that. You'd hit that reviewed button and glance through there and make sure there's no errors. All you got to do to finish it is put your password in. And the incompleting thing, the reason I go so deep into that is because say there is an error. That is so handy that you don't have to go hunt that person down and say, hey, I need, and show them, and you send them an incomplete with a note on it. You don't have to do anything. At first, you may want to make a phone call. Say, hey man, or an email, whatever your easiest, you know, and say, hey man, I incompleted the call, this is why. Did you get that notification I sent, you know, and sooner than later, that process starts kind of rolling on its own. You don't have to make phone calls anymore. You just click it, type your note, and move on. They don't take it personal. They realize, okay, he caught an error, I can fix it, and the process starts all over. Any questions? I think it's a pretty good system. There's a lot with it until you start using it, and you start realizing there's really not a whole lot to it. So, all right, that's incidents. Since there's no questions on that, do we need a break or you want to move on? It's 3:17, so we have probably till right at 4. I'm going to show you some other things.
Your incidents, on your fire incidents, does it still have the numerous amount of redundant information?
On
You
the-
still have to fill like Firehouse does? Or are they a little different?
They're a little different. The only thing that ours require, the only thing, are NIFRS required stuff. And like I said, the admin only has a few options to add in. Like the county code and city code on there that was black, it's not required. He could make those required. Dispatch run number, he can make or make not required. There's very few options for him to turn stuff on. It's just a few little things that we felt like some departments track, some don't. So everything else is nothing more than just a NIFRS required spot. Property use, origin and cause stuff, that kind of stuff, yeah, it's required, but that's because all of us are required to do that because of NIFRS. I wish we could turn some of those off, honestly. But as far as I think, compared to most programs like that, no, it's nowhere near that many required things that are hard to answer.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff should be stuff that if you run a fire call, you have the answers to it. You should be able to answer it, and it makes that report a NIFRS compliant call without a doubt. There is no doubt. But we don't throw anything extra in that's not NIFRS required.
So we're doing this though for medical calls too though.
For y'all's medical calls now
Are we,
in ESO?
It's like the Firehouse.
just like.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you'll do this for medical calls. It'll throw a CAD dispatch in there, and those will be the simplest, easy ones you got. Because your narrative, you're not going to have any patient information, nothing like that, just engine according to your department's protocol, normally you would see Engine 2 ran a EMS call to this address, assisted, whatever, and you're done. Recs that include medical calls, you know, Engine 2 ran a MVC, you'd have a little bit more information in that call, head-on collision, whatever, blah, 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 but you still wouldn't put any HIPAA information in there, and you're done, you get out of it. There is interfacing back and forth, but that's something they're looking at and deciding if it's even going to be valuable to you. I turned our interface on before we had CAD, and 3 days later shut it off because I didn't want to spend all the time mapping the two programs together and then CAD jump in and completely screw all that up. And so we used it for 3 days, and ESO was spitting new calls into my ERS, so they'd come in and look and there'd be 15 new calls that were ESO. As soon as a PCR started to get generated, shoot it into ERS. I know there's a way to map that to where it works right, but I didn't want to waste my time knowing CAD was coming and I'd have to redo it all anyway. So they do have interfaces. It's not cheap. It's like $2,000 a year for ESO to do that. And if it's not a value, if it doesn't really blow information back and forth to really, really make it easier, it may not be worth the money. But it might be too. But that's something they are looking into.
Your average medical call, which is the vast majority, on ER, you'll do station, you'll do shift, go to the apparatus, put the alarm time in because it's not putting in right now. People's be pushed in, you write what you did, which is usually a code 33 or 32 for ALS versus BLS. Write your narrative, which needs to be really short, and that's it, you're done.
A lot of ours, like, you know, those are examples of what my guys do. You know, on an iPhone, they'll have that, they'll run we're secondary now, we don't have ambulances anymore, so you'll have one guy that didn't deal with any patients in the back, and on his iPhone will sit there and finish the ERS report while the guy that dealt with the patients deals with ESO reports and is done with it. So works pretty good together.
Play with some of these open calls. Is it going to screw up anything?
You're not going to screw up anything. You can sit here and start new calls, play with them. Y'all don't go live till March 1st. Those can be deleted, so I recommend getting in there and playing with these calls and figuring the way they go. You got some that are already built in there that are big, long structure fires with lots of boxes, you know, tally through those, or make one up. Make your own building fire and see what it's going to do as you do that and see the questions it's going to ask. You don't have to finish it out or complete it. That stuff can be deleted. So it's a good time to get in there and really throw everything you got at it and see what it's going to do. All right, I'm going to touch a couple of areas within the system, and all this is I'm going to show you it and kind of explain it a little bit. And those are just to let you know that they're in there, and then we're going to finish up with hydrants, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on hydrants because that is an up and running system already. And he's already got them set up to where he's assigned y'all's hydrants, and I'm going to let him explain how he wants that done, and then we're done. So I'm going to show you occupancy, just because, especially company officers showing up on scene, you need to know what's being built in and for your pre-plans and how that's going to look. So in the occupancy module, it's going to be a grid page. You know, we talk about grid pages over and over and over. Grid page is nothing more than a search page. You're going to have this massive list under you, and you need a way to be able to filter down what you're looking at. So down at the bottom hand corner, you see that you've got 15,964 occupancies in this module right now. So you need a way to be able to hunt down what you're looking for. So every one of these boxes is a way to filter this down. So let's say if you wanted to filter it on category, which is, they're not all built yet, that's why that list has only got assembly in it. Or you can order them alphanumeric wise or reverse alphanumeric it by clicking next to category. Same thing with name, alphanumeric, reverse alphanumeric. Or you can type a keyword. Let's say, since China's right there, we type China in and hit enter. It's going to pull up every occupancy within this system that has the word China in it. Same thing with ID, address. You can filter it by type, zone, station, inspector, blah, blah, blah. Same theme, just over and over and over. So we're going to look at this new China house in Leesburg. If I double click into it, that puts me inside that occupancy. I can see that there's a lot of basic information that will be entered at some point, and I'm assuming, I don't know if this is by y'all or if it's by your prevention, but you're going to have a lot of basic information, construction type, the address, longitude and latitude, phone, email, that kind of stuff on this occupancy. Also going to have contact information. This will be where your key holder stuff would go. If you're doing a pre-fire survey and you want to enter contact information, up here above is add new contact. It's going to open up the box. If you're doing an inspection on this place, it'd be a good thing to have the email in there, because if you got that preloaded, when they get to the end of their inspection, it gives them the option just to email them the results rather than printing anything out, anything like that. They can do it all on an iPad. It never sees a pen or paper, period. Email's a good thing to have in there. So that would end up being in your contact list right here. So key holder information, owner information, engineer, if you're doing pre-plans or plan review stuff, you would have engineer and architect information in here. Inspections, this is where all the inspections for this business happen, would be in this box right here. This is where they start an inspection, where they schedule inspections, all of that would happen, and that's just for this China place. Pre-fire plans, this is the box that would matter to the IC showing up on scene. This is where you got all your dimensions. When those dimensions get inputted, along with the construction type on that first page, it's going to calculate the square feet, and along with your hydrant information, it all ties together, it's going to set up your needed fire flow. So for this business, once all this information is put in, you'll know what the needed fire flow on it is. Fire panel location, you'll see all this information that's kind of important when you first show up on scene. That should be on one page right there for you. As they go pre-survey it, say there's a hydrogen storage within the building, they would type in hydrogen, click on it, put the location, back room, storage, whatever. Quantity of containers, 500 of them. Container type, it's going to be drums of hydrogen. I know that makes sense. All 55 gallons. And then he's going to save it in there so that you know that chemical storage is there. When your IC shows up on scene, sees that there's a chemical on this page, all he's got to do is hit the magnifying glass, and it's going to open up Cameo for hydrogen. And you put all that information on a screen for him right there. And it is a separate screen, so he can minimize it or save it or set it next to and have that information right at his fingertips at all times, or hers. I'm going to delete that out since that's not real. The next box is going to be fire protection systems. It's going to show your 10 closest hydrants. All that's automatic, and updates automatic. Nobody inputs that. As hydrants are happening, this is updated. It'll show their flows at the moment. Fire department connections, sprinkler room, all this stuff will be put in here during pre-fire planning. New systems, hood systems, different fire protection systems that are added and certified will be right here and below. Files, this could be pictures of the building. During construction, pre-construction, you can store your pre-fire plans in there as far as your drawings. You can also store, go ahead.
Off you go.
All right, you're welcome. With the files tab, you can take a picture with an iPad when you're walking through doing a pre-survey of their evacuation plan and stick it in here. That way it gives a decent building layout for the IC right when he's on scene looking on his iPad or computer. As long as he's got internet, he can see this stuff. It's also going to have a tab. This is where you would write permits for anybody by adding a new permit and following the procedures. Hazards tab is what you would go during your pre-fire planning. Answer these questions like number of employees, number of floors, square footage, blah, 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 all these different questions. And this is going to set the entire system up once this stuff starts getting done to be able to find your targeted risk hazards within the city. It's going to set your OBAP scores up for the city. It's going to show what areas of your city are having moderate risk, a high hazard risk, or a low hazard risk. So it ends up, if this stuff is filled out, you can target those businesses where you need to be sending fire prevention in, or where you need to be focusing some kind of educational opportunities, stuff like that in. Maybe moving a station because you've got a certain section of the city that's a very high risk hazard. So stuff like this over a couple of years of work can wield some really good, powerful data to be able to use with some major decisions. And then you have an actions tab, and that's just a spot to take notes. If you add a new action, you'll see that it's got all kinds of different things. If you go in and do an annual emergency plan review stuff, you just take notes, things that have happened at the business. If you violate them on something, you can make a note in there of that. Fire assessments. If a fire extinguisher is serviced by a company, you could make notes on that kind of stuff in here. Write a permit, any of that stuff can be stored under the actions tab. That's your occupancies and what they look like when you go into any of them. Same thing on the map. If you click on that and go into edit, that's what you're going to see. Is you're going to go inside that occupancy and look at their info. The top taskbar is going to have an inspections tab. This is not how you start inspections. This is a grid of all the inspections that happen to be happening. So if we inspected the China restaurant like that, it's going to show up on this tab. It's also going to be stored under the #1 China restaurant too. This is just a grid of overall inspections happening. Same thing with permits. That's going to be a grid of overall permits happening as they're getting written. This grid will show you whether they're active or expired on the top of it. You won't actually have to go into #1 China's to see and look under permits to see their permit. You have your own grid to look at if that's something that would end up being important. Vision, that's where you go to pull those hazard reports and target hazards and all that kind of stuff. As those start getting filled out, it's going to show every occupancy and whether it's sufficient flow, insufficient, what their OVAP score is, blah, blah, blah. Lots of good information for all the different occupancies within your city. Hazard statistics, once these all start getting filled out and built, that's where it's going to start showing you the percentage of your coverage area that's high hazard, maximum, significant, moderate, low, average score type of stuff. Really good information, especially for a city council or somebody like that that's making decisions about where your stations end up or how much money they're going to pump into a new ladder truck in a certain area. So that's occupancy. I know that was super fast. I normally take about 7 hours to teach that. So I just wanted you to get a glimpse and see what it was mainly. And that there's lots of good information once it starts getting built, especially for you showing up on scene. Somebody in command has their fingertips at a lot of really good information on that structure fire. Maintenance, we're going to look at it. This is something that you're not utilizing yet. Not a lot of information's in here yet, but I do want you to understand what this look is and what it means. The left side here is your apparatus that has to be put in by your admin. So that's just your vehicles. The right side is going to be equipment, whether it becomes bunker pants, PPE, all that kind of stuff, computers, radios, cameras, anything like that would be on this right side. The way, I think cardiac monitors is already in here, so the way you would hunt those things down is you would look under a category, cardiac monitors, and if it had a subcategory, you could look under that subcategory or show all and hit go. And that's going to pull up all the cardiac monitors that are in here. There's not a lot of equipment in here yet, so that's why we pull up that one. So I can see each cardiac monitor. None of them are assigned, yeah they are, they're assigned to headquarters right now. So if I wanted, had this massive list sitting here of something, of radios or whatever, and it was assigned to a headquarter, I could filter it down to 61 headquarters and just look at the cardiac monitors that are assigned to that headquarter. Or if I had them assigned to a truck, I could go ahead and whittle it down even further. Or a person, if it's bunker pants, I could, instead of doing all this headquarters station, all that, and an apparatus, I could look at one person and find out everything that was assigned to that person. So all their bunker gear should show up there if you've assigned it to them. So that's how that little filter works. You can put anything from SCBAs to radios to bunker gear to uniforms. Whatever you want to put in there, you can. I'm going to show apparatus because all that stuff's in here pretty much. Well, let's do a cardiac monitor. Oh, I still got it filtered to person. Okay, so if I wanted to, something went wrong with my monitor and I want to put a maintenance request in to get it fixed, you would go to request maintenance up here on the top. He said you're probably not going to use apparatus stuff much because separate fleet working on that stuff, they won't receive these anyway. So let's say equipment. I got it set to cardiac monitors and show all already. Say I know it's this monitor. I'd double click that monitor and I'd say screen cracked. I don't know a scheduled date because I don't know when they're going to, I'm just putting the request in. Type is a monitor repair or minor repair, and I describe the problem. Dropped it, screen cracked, please fix. Click next. I can take a picture of it if I want or upload a form, anything that I want to right there and complete this maintenance request. Now what this just did, there was a pending button up here. it shot me straight into the pending work order grid, scheduled maintenance grid. Whoever is supposed to be looking at that kind of stuff, and that'll be a department thing, somebody's assigned to look into this kind of stuff, he'd go in, double click and look at your work order. Oh, that's the wrong one. Screen cracked. I'm going to go in and look at mine. Okay. He'd see it. He could schedule the date if he wanted to. We'll say that's going to be tomorrow or today. There's your description. If it was written out, it would show right there. And I'm going to assign it to somebody. We'll assign it to me. And I don't know any of the rest of this. It's not complete. I'm just assigning it. I'm not the person that's actually going to fix it. As soon as I hit save, it's going to pop up a box with whoever I put in is that this is their assignment to get done, and type get the screen fixed or whatever note I need this person to view, and send notification. It's going to stick it back in there. It's not completed, not done, but it is assigned to me now. I'd get an email that said, you know, there's a pending work order in there, get the screen fixed. I could sign in to ER through here. It'd still make me put my login and password in, but it'd take me straight to this page, skip everything else. So I'd go in, I'd fix the screen, and then I'd say it was completed today, and check this box to say it was completed. I could take a picture of the fresh, pretty screen if I wanted to, and attach it to it, and hit save. It's going to take it off this pending work order list and take it out of the system, and it's going to attach it to that monitor and show that a work order was put in and it was fixed by me. So I'm not sure which monitor that was, but we can try to look at it. Anybody remember off the top of their head which one we just looked at? Not that one. Not that one. It's one of those in there. What it showed is a completed title done by and notes, and it'll leave that with it from now on until that monitor gets removed from the system. Works exactly the same way with the trucks. Exact same system, exact same way you need an oil change. It gets done, it gets completed, and I think I can probably, I think engine 61 we've done some. No, dang it. There's some done. That is stuff that was put in under a truck. Exact same thing. It keeps those notes under that truck, and they will stick with that vehicle forever as long as it's in the system. Doesn't matter if it's engine 62 or gets moved to reserved, it'll stick with it. Denied. Anytime reports pops up in a module, occupancy had this too, but when we're within the module and reports pops up, it's going to show you every report that has to do with maintenance that's and just keeps it within maintenance. Right here, you've got a full module to be able to search this stuff out, but if you're inside maintenance, all it's going to show is maintenance reports. Same thing in occupancy. All that would show is occupancy reports. Any questions about that really, really quick throwback for maintenance? Just wanted you to know what it looked like, and if it gets up and running, kind of how to start messing with it. All right, hydrants. This is the last thing we'll focus on today, unless you want me to hit rosters too, Chief? Okay. Hydrants, we're going to focus on that because this is up and running. This is something that you will be using. Hydrants, when you go into it, do we need a 5-minute break? Let everybody stretch for a second. Anybody? All right. When you get into hydrants, you're going to look at a grid page, just like occupancies, just like everywhere else pretty much within the system. Same thing. You can search. If I want to search hydrants that have the 10 in their ID, I can search that out and pull it down to just those. When you go to the bottom, it shows me I got 152 of those in here that have a 10 in their ID number. If I want to search out an ID that has 10 and the word Royal in their address, I can do that. I only got one. Now, whenever I put a filter in like that on there, I'm searching out all hydrants with 10 and Royal. That doesn't go away. Next time I sign into hydrants, that's going to be stuck until I change that. So in order to get those out of filters, I'd click in there and backspace it out and hit enter. It's going to take Royal out of that. If I wanted those IDs and be able to see all of the hydrants and get rid of any filters, backspace it, hit enter. Now I've got 2,111 hydrants showing. Same thing like I said before, if I choose to do a CSV download right here, it's going to download information on 2,111 hydrants. If I narrowed it down to those 152 and hit CSV download, it would pull those 152 hydrants and dump that information into an Excel spreadsheet for me. Same thing with your switch to map view. Right now I hit switch to map view, it's going to show all 2,111 hydrants. If I had it down to the 152, that's all it's going to show. If I just showed out of service hydrants, that's all it's going to show when I switch to map view. Map view works exact same way it does in all the other portions. Difference with the hydrants is as you go to flow testing, and some information apparently got corrupted as it came across because you got a bunch of untested flow. That's something he'll talk to you about, but it's going to color the hydrant on its own. So if the flows come out that it's going to produce greater than 1,500 a minute, it'll be blue automatically. If next time you flow test it, apparently someone did it wrong and it's going to show between 1,000 and 1,500 gallons, it's going to show green. And you don't change any of that, it does it on its own. So that's the overall grid view. Every hydrant you got is in here. You can narrow it down to which hydrant you're looking for. Over here on the right, you got a print feature. You got a edit feature that takes you into the hydrant if you're on an iPad. Same thing as double clicking. You can go to a flow test straight from here to where you straight into it to its flow test. Then you've got the work order. You can go straight into work orders on that hydrant or trash function. So you got all this stuff on the grid page that's for every hydrant within the system. Okay, the way your chief has set it up to assign hydrants to where you do your annual inspection or your 5-year flow test is he did that through work orders. He went into each one of these with a bulk testing feature to where he could do multiples at once and assign them to a person and gave you a work order request on that for this year. So the way you see that, just like inspections and permits, to see all work orders and how they're set up is on this top taskbar. So instead of going into each one and looking at the work order and seeing, okay, am I assigned to that one? Notice there's nothing on here that shows who's assigned to these hydrants, anything like that. So you can't search it that way. So you would go into your work orders grid page where all the work orders that have been set up are lined up in without having to go into each hydrant and look at its work order and seeing, am I assigned to it or not? I go to the work order grid page. Notice there's nothing, same thing. You can search through these with this top grid page just like you do everything else. But there's nothing up here that lets me narrow it down to who's assigned to this work order. So a way to do that is to click Advanced Search while you're in work orders and look up all the work orders that are assigned to who's in this room that's on this list. Somebody?
Meeks.
Meeks. Is that right? Okay.
Arrow.
And I'm going to look up all the work orders that are assigned to Meeks. Now that's going to pull up all of the work orders assigned to Meeks. Notice they're different. You got hydrant flow tests, and then you've got some that are annual hydrant servicing.
From that list, can you pull up via map?
You cannot pull this one up via map. There's no switch to map view. He did say that they're going to provide maps that y'all are used to that would show these.
So these are different than last year?
They're the same hydrants pretty much as last year.
It's just got directions on what he wants you to do to each hydrant. Like this hydrant right here, number 356. You can go back into that hydrants module and look up 356 and flow test it from there. This is a work order. So there's options when you pull up this list, however you want to do this to pull this list for yourself. Right now I've got hydrant flow test and annuals all pulled up all at once. So I can dump this into a spreadsheet if I want to put it all on one list that's printed out so I can see it. And that'll have all your hydrant numbers, what you're supposed to do to it for that year, and it's just something to go by.
But I could work right off the same page.
You could work right off this same page if you want to. So hydrant 356, I want to flow test it. I'd have to go to hydrants right now and look up 356 ID. Okay, that's my hydrant. I could flow test it off of that grid page. I could go straight to flow test if I want to. I'm going to go into it just to show you how to get there from there too. Or I can go into flow test and add a flow test. Chief, do you want to explain?
Sure.
You need the mic so that
No.
make sure. Or you already went through this kind of,
Yeah, I
didn't you,
already
with
went through
everybody?
it, but just, so that top box is a test hydrant, the one that requires flow testing. All it has is a place for a static pressure, which is that when you first put the cap on, and has a place for a residual after that downstream hydrant is flowing. So it does a little better job in firehouse and helping to keep straight in your head. So the test hydrant, all you have is a place for a static and a residual. That desired pressure at 20 psi, that's something that automatically populates. It's a default in the water engineering world. 20 psi is the residual they want. So the flow hydrant, which is the one that we call it right now residual, but it's that one next that you're actually flowing water out of. You put your number there, the diameter, 2.5 or 4.5, the coefficient, which is almost always 0.9, and there's your pitot pressure. You put it in, you have a residual up top,
What do you want?
55, 40. And then it does all the math for it automatically. I think because we're doing it wrong, that's why so many of our hydrants are reds and oranges, because I know we don't have that many lower flowing hydrants as we do. The other thing is that we're going to pretend as though this is our first year as a fire department. So we're going to start from scratch this year moving forward to all this with our hydrant flows. So we've targeted those hydrants that have, can you pull up the map of all of our hydrants? The map function is pretty cool. It puts it visually for you guys to see.
Ah, sorry.
So, you're right through there. So if you look at the legend there, you know, we know the NFPA colors red, orange, green, and blue. But this program shows yellow hydrants as untested flows. Now that big line, long line there, is either Lee or Perkins. When I was on 6-2, that was my area. I know I flowed all those hydrants. And for some reason, there's no data came over from either Firehouse didn't export it or it came over corrupted or something. So we're going to target this year all these yellows and reds. So you're going to still do the same percentages always, no more labor, but you might do a hydrant this year. Like I know I tested that 2 years ago. Just bear with us, pretend like those never happened. We're going to start with good data. Our intention is that if we start from now, by next time ISO comes around, this map should be definitely no more yellows, probably fewer reds, and more greens and blues. So overall, the hydrant program, you got a little less work to do because the annuals are really easy now. And just keep in mind the ones that are the flow tests, we're doing it opposite ways. We've been doing it opposite ways. So the one that you're testing, water never flows out of that one. It's that downstream hydrant, or the nearest hydrant. And then don't worry about putting signs out for just your annuals because you're not flowing water. Just put your signs out for your flow test where you're going to be flowing water. Is that fair? All right.
And he explained that annual inspection. You explained that earlier,
Yeah, so
didn't
the
you?
annual is just, we talked about it, just where you inspect it, make sure it's not crooked, make sure it's overgrown, grease it, lube it, oil it, check the washers on it, and just do a pressure test. Make sure it has pressure. If it has, it all passes, take it apart, move on to the next. When you're done, you probably shouldn't flow 5 gallons of water out. You'd probably leave barely wet the ground. On your 50-year flow test, you're going to flow some water though.
All right, so you just finished that flow test on hydrant 56. It's going to populate in this list. It's also going to populate up in that flow test grid and show up where all the different flow tests are starting to populate. So you finished it. Your work order that you were just looking at the work order grid, the one that was with 356 is actually attached under work orders. So you can go to work orders, double click into it and complete it. after you're done or before you go if you know you're going to complete it. All you do is fill in today, by me, any description you wanted to add to it, and you're going to hit save, and that work order will disappear off your list.
You have to click on complete, or?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you'd want to put it was completed. And then when you save that, it disappears off that work order list, and slowly that list disappears until you're done. And then I would imagine next year he'll reassign, which would take him, with this system, honestly, it'd take him 30 minutes to turn around and get everything reassigned and shot to everybody, and same thing next year. Any questions about that process while we're sitting here? Notice I didn't save it and say I try to get out. It's going to scream, are you sure you want to leave this page? Anytime you don't save anything that is not going to stick, it'll pull this up to let you know, hey, you need to save it. Otherwise these changes are, and I don't want it to save because it'd take that off your work order then. All right, notice every time I go back, 356 is stuck in here until I get rid of it. So in order to see everything, I got to pull that filter out. All right, no questions about hydrants then. That is about all I've got to show y'all today as far as getting going. There's a lot within this system. I mean, I could spend 3 days with everybody and drive them insane, because this is dry stuff and 3 days of this can be a little rough. But if you get in here and play, a lot of this stuff will come naturally anyway, and you got my number, my email, so as you start progressing, if you got questions, want to contact me, your chiefs are all over this. You're so much further. This stuff blew my mind when I showed up. For a new user to have all this set up already is pretty awesome. So I think you may have a really good contact within your own department already. But if you need me at any point, I'm here, and I'm glad to answer phone calls and emails and help. I appreciate how nice everybody's been here, and thank you for being hospitable, and I hope this goes very well for y'all and you love it.
Thanks, John. I want just to tell you guys one thing about, you're gonna have these tub books with you, and you're gonna have iPads when IT finally configures them where they can monitor them. But I don't want you guys to feel like this is something else you gotta manage, all right? So if you're just not comfortable doing all this on scene, or if you're not comfortable pulling up to the hydrant and getting the iPad out, if you wanna do it on paper, that's totally fine. Now Kenny, he can probably fight in the fire and do a pre-plan while he's fighting the fire on his phone, right? Squirting nozzle and you do a pre-plan. So he'd probably selfie doing a pre-plan. He's quite cool with it, but if you're just like not comfortable, like I just want to do it on paper and go backstage and sit down, I don't care. That's fine. This is designed to